Hello, everybody, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is September the 21st of 2022. That's right. It's 21, I thought there was a number thing there, but it's not really. It's just the 21st day of a month
I,
and the 22nd. It's not great.
I'm surprised that there was a moment of hesitation on your end to not go with the obvious joke.
That it's the 21st of September.
Yeah.
Nothing with
Do
blue
you
talking doves.
remember? Yeah.
Remember? Yeah,
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yes, but
Because I've
I'm
had.
not Quinn. I'm not cool enough to make that reference. Okay, so
um. You, I don't think you need to be cool because I've had multiple people at this point let me know exactly. Like I think 4 different friend groups have done this joke with me. None of them are cooler than you. So I would take pride in that and make all the Earth, Wind, and Fire references you'd like.
maybe it's just that I'm just the right amount of cool to realize I'm not cool enough to make the
That's
reference.
the ticket where you realize it's hack at this point, so you're not going to do it. But it's in the same way that like once May comes around, you're like, I gotta post a Justin Timberlake. It's gonna be May gif. Like I have to do it. You're like, no, you don't have to.
I do not have to do that.
We've done that. It can go away now. You know, it doesn't have to be cultural cachet niche for the rest of our lives. You know.
Yeah, we're past it, and the great news is that unlike that song, September is a good enough song that I'll just listen to the song and enjoy it that way.
It's a
So
decent song, solid song.
it's a
Can't
very
hold
good song.
anything against it.
Uh, yeah. So we do have a lot of manga to talk about today. So I
It feels
think
like we
that
have
we'll.
so much. Like, I. Oh my god! Like I don't know. As I look at this list, I feel like there's probably been more weeks, but you're just like, Jesus, feels like everything is here this week.
I think that it just has to do with we know that there are certain things that are going to prompt discussions. And so we have to be prepared for that and we have to give ourselves a little bit of breathing room. So I think that we're just going to kick this off and we're going to talk about My Hero Academia. To begin the recap portion, weekly manga recap, it's chapter number 366, Full Moon, which is a very, uh, poetic sounding title. It is not what you think it is, unless you've already read the chapter, in which case you know what it is. We get some narration to begin with, just to remind you, is like, by the way, Shigaraki doesn't have access to his quirk right now, but his body is really, really weird because he doesn't have a quirk right now. And it's just morphing, growing heads now, growing fingers and heads. And there is apparently he can't heal the damage he's been accumulating because he doesn't have regenerative powers, which hasn't stopped him from tanking giant laser blasts and punches from people who can break concrete with their bare fists, a swarm of explosions. He doesn't have regenerative powers. He's fine.
Yeah, he doesn't need those anymore. He's too tough.
However, his body continues to morph anyway, and now he's got hand armor, which I also think looks kind of cool. I
It's
have to say.
it's an aesthetic. I don't hate it, but it certainly is something where I'm like, this is a visual, and I'll appreciate it for that. There's been talk before about like how Horikoshi, like Horikoshi himself has said like hands are like one of the most important things for me to draw, and there's got to be moments like this where he's just like, fucking, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna draw like 100
More hands.
non-stop hands. How does he have more hands?
Mirko tries to finish off Shigaraki, who just uppercuts her away. It once again became kind of difficult for me to tell what was going on because everything starts to blur with the force of stuff that gets punched. Sun Eater then goes, "Oh no," and also gets punched. There's just a big moment of like, "Oh, this is where I die," and then he gets punched. Nejire tries to lash out with her wave things, and she doesn't get punched, but she does get rocks thrown at her or punched into her or something like that, which basically just leaves Mirio and Best Jeanist in any shape to fight Shigaraki. And Mirio, of course, is like, he's very difficult to hit because he can just turn intangible. Shigaraki goes after Best Jeanist, who is trying to protect Bakugo. Lots of cables come out, and stuff happens.
Yeah. There's physical action that occurs and progresses the narrative in some way. Our characters were in one location, a panel happens, they were in a different location. And what happens in between there is a mystery for you to figure out. It's a little
I believe that Shigaraki charges towards Mirio and Best Jeanist is behind him. He goes through Mirio because he turns intangible and then keeps on stampeding towards Best Jeanist. So Mirio is unharmed, but he's realizing that there's nothing that he can do, and he starts to despair because he's like, I can't do anything. All my friends are getting hurt. Miriko's in a tree. That's where she ended up.
Had a rough day.
And he just thinks to himself, when Night Eye died, he'd used this prediction thing, and he realized that, oh, Mirio, you're going to make a fine hero. And Mirio just thinks to himself, is this the future that you saw? And he's just feeling bad. But then Mandalay, the communication, is it Meow Meow Pussycat? Is that it that they're called? I think Wild Wild Pussycat, not Meow Meow Pussycat. Wild Wild Pussycat. That's what their group is called.
What is it?
Yeah, I was trying to remember their group name. So Mandalay, the communications one, calls out to everyone, "Hey, drop the electromagnetic barrier around the prison for 2 seconds, and keep him busy for those 2 seconds." And both Best Jeanist and Mirio are like, "Wait, what's going on? What is this?" And especially because Shigaraki is so absurdly powerful. That's like, what, he could get out? What are we supposed to do to keep him in here? Mirio just starts to have a breakdown. He's like realizing that there's nothing he can do, but in a flash he realizes, okay, I need to do something to just keep his attention on me so that he doesn't go outside of the barrier when it's down. But what do I have? And he thinks about Sir Night-Eye and the important lessons that Night-Eye taught him. How a world without smiles and humor has no purpose. And so he moons Shigaraki while shouting out, "Full moon rising tonight," because it's a callback from that one time he mooned the class through a bush.
That it is.
So he does that. And while Shigaraki is just standing in, I assume, slack-jawed, but we can't see his mouth because of all the hands around him.
Well, we do see he has a little like he did chuckle a little bit. Yeah. He's like, butts are funny. I don't know what to say. They're the classic. Timeless. Yeah.
Which means one of two things. Either the immature teenager Shigaraki is still partially there, or All For One has a very butt-focused sense of humor that has been heretofore unexplored.
He feels like he would, I'll be honest. It feels like he'd have a lot of butt jokes, and he'd do a lot of butt things. You're just like, all right, man, like, you're like 70 or whatever, or 190. I don't know how old you are, actually, but you seem like you're too old to be doing this much butt-related humor.
Oh, boy. Yep. Oh, come on! I'm hip, as they say. It's close to the butt. See, hip.
Check out me in these jeggings. You're like, that's not really. I mean, that's like a perfectly valid fashion choice. You just want to show off your butt, just do it. I don't care.
And it doesn't really. I mean, like, if you're trying to show off how fit you are like some sort of weird magical superpower being. So it doesn't really count. So.
Also, you can collect quirks that just give you probably a shapely bottom. I assume
That's right. I've stolen at least 6 of them just for the butt they gave me.
just for the butt lifting quirks they have.
A bunch of people despairing around the world looking at their newly flat asses. Ah! I used to have the perfect ass.
Why didn't he kill me?
Anyway, Deku's here.
Please, Deku shows up in fucking like clothesline from hell's Shigaraki. We can't turn away at that. He literally fucking like slingshots his way in. Buckshot lariats him.
There is a moment where he sets himself up with black whips to just slingshot himself forward. There is a split second where we just get a big 2-page spread of the two of them seeing each other, and then just the follow through of this ridiculous high speed attack that Deku has smashed into Shigaraki with. Yeah, it's a cool entrance. It's a cool moment. And it's nice that he was like, all right, cool. It's not just going to be a bunch of everyone just being like, oh God, he's killing us. But it'll be like, all right, cool. Deku's here. The fight that is happening here could actually start now.
How did you feel about this chapter, Nick? This is a controversial chapter because some people are like, I don't like the butt. No butt.
I don't have negative feelings about it, but I also don't have positive feelings about it. It sort of happened, and it took me off guard, and then Deku showed up, which I guess I very heavily relate to Shigaraki in this moment of just like, I'm in the middle of something really intense. Wait, what is happening? Why is this boy showing me his ass? What is happening right now? Oh, I've been hit. So,
ouch, my neck.
Yeah. But he also found Mirio's butt funnier than I did, so I guess I don't entirely relate to him. So,
So I found it mildly amusing. I dug it. I honestly wish they had gone even further with it, because obviously like the crux of the chapter is like the big 2-page spread afterwards, followed up by another 2-page spread, followed up by and this is going to surprise you, a third 2-page spread centered around Deku and Shigaraki running into each other again. I wish we had gotten like almost like a page and a second full page of the butt shot and then a Shigaraki like reaction face. Like I know it's like a weird thing to compare. Like I wish they'd been sillier with it even. Because, like, those are, like, iconic moments in series. Like, you're not going to forget the first time and Naru tried to shock Luffy and he realizes he can't hurt him. And just, like, that silly kind of moment. Like, that's also One Piece's humor a little bit. But, like, this is a moment here where I was like, I think we could have gone even higher and even wackier with this.
Yeah, we could have had a reverse harem no jutsu moment.
Yeah, that was great. That was a cool scene. With a
good moment.
Yeah.
Good moment.
Thankfully,
it was funny that last minute villain introduction that we had. We will always know Kaguya was into the boy love. One of like 2 things we know about her personality.
She was a little thirsty, yeah. Luckily, that's the last time we'll ever have to insult anything that Kishimoto has ever worked on.
Oh, all right.
So before we get to that, let's cut over to Undead Unluck number 127. Luna and Sun, and the sun is a bean covered in exploding boils of lava that is just moving about. And Andy's like, what the
like he just got out of bed too.
Yeah.
Just like,
and he's just like, what the fuck are we supposed to do about this? And there's just like this explosion. There's just, and it's this magnitude that we see, like you could feel it across the globe. Like fucking Fuko down in a chamber is feeling. She's like, has God launched their attack? And Luna is just like, they're not attacking. They simply stood up. And you're like, Jesus.
It's a cool moment.
Yeah. Fuko uses this opportunity to be like, so what the fuck are you to Luna? And Luna's like, I am God. My name is Luna, and I am the other God who created this world. And Fuko's, of course, like, wait, the other God? There are 2 gods? Then the one on the surface is, yeah, that's the sun. They made the UMAs, determined the rules, and created everything in this world. They're also a god. And we cut back to that as there are a bunch of like UMAs we could see. I think we see Burn and then 2 other UMAs I've not seen before, kind of moving out of the way of Sun just stomping their foot. And he's like, all right, well, we're gonna gotta do this then. But then Chikara shows up and is like, no, I'm gonna use unmove, and stops, the sun. Just like, there we go.
Yeah.
10 minutes. That's all.
Well, all right. Yeah, Chikara can do it. Good job, buddy.
Chikara's got this handled. So the chapter ends. Everybody's doing good. Actually, wait, no.
And we're just kind of like sitting around looking at their phones.
One of the boils on the sun pops, and there's an explosion. And Juez just shouts, Billy, the operation continues as planned. And Annie's like, huh? And they say Chikara. And we see, we don't know what, but something has shot, like a cannonball, has shot basically, presumably across the world, and just ripped off Chikara's one side. Like, it just covers like the arm and a bit of the chest, but it's gone. Like, it's off into space right there. And Luna just says,
put that on the Bleach tribute counter, please, because
go.
that's a pretty crazy one.
And Luna just says, this is a game between them and myself, the sun and the moon, to see whose vision the world will shape itself into.
Yeah, it seems like we're gonna get a little bit of very important lore coming up to kind of like reestablish the stakes as we move into the final part of the story. And wouldn't you know it, it's the Elemist and Krayak. Oh man. I'm just gonna limit down all the people that can get that reference to people who read Scholastic books in the 90s. All right. This is a really cool chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Now, we have several really exciting monthly series to talk about. However, we do go alphabetically, so we have to start with Boruto. I feel like that's
all
the
right.
sound they need to give a horror monster to like a movie.
Okay. Boruto, chapter number 73, a special mission. First off, what is wrong with Sarada in this picture? Like, what is going on with her?
This is
everything.
A bad aesthetic, just a bad visual. Like, this is a lot of weird color choices. This is just a lot of strangeness in one image. So I don't know if she was going for something avant-garde. I think she missed her mark, unfortunately.
All right. So I'm going to summarize the first 7, 8, 9, 10 pages of this chapter thusly. Shikamaru meets with Konohamaru and Team 7 and Sumire, who is also there. She's the most important member of their peer group, basically. Like, can you think of a single kid their age that is more important than her that is not in their group?
Sure,
like,
technically, yeah. I mean, she is probably more important than even Mitsuki is at this point, to be honest. But it is just like, but why is she here if she's not relevant to these conversations?
There is no indication of it. She is there with Kawaki when main Team 7 shows up, so maybe she's just still with him because she's been looking after him while he's been in, like, bed rest, basically. So they all go to meet with them, and Shikamaru explains things to them that we, the audience, already know about the situation that they're in, regarding Ada and Amato and Code, and what Ada's abilities are, what she is after, the fact that she's mad at Code and has cut ties with him, and she's on her way to Konoha along with Amato. The kids are just like, okay, so all right, so I guess we should, like, take down Ada, right? And Shikamaru says no. And then we cut away just to let everyone know again, by the way, Ada and Amato are on their way to Konoha. They're riding a train, like just a train. So
yeah, they'll get there.
Those exist. It's good that they have public transportation.
Yeah, we've established that, like, video game consoles exist, so yeah, they gotta have trains at this point.
Yeah. On page 16, Boruto says, "Tell us what our mission is." So now we're finally getting into new stuff a third of the way into this chapter. And so Shikamaru then establishes blah 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 blah. Code and Ada are mad at each other. She's on her way here. Why? Okay, here are Ada's abilities.
It's
I was generous when I said that they spend the first 10 pages telling us stuff. It's the first half of the chapter doing nothing new.
just recapping what we've already learned in this, like, either you're reading this in a volume format, in which case all this information is directly in front of you, or you're reading this month to month like we are, and this has been the only thing that's happened. Like, it's I don't know why we feel the need to like recap every little bit of information. Like, why couldn't Naruto or Boruto and friends been like there at the start? He's like, so that's the long and short of it, or whatever, and then here's this.
Do you think that Kishimoto doesn't want to write anymore? But like, what the fuck? It's okay if you don't want to write, dude. You had someone else doing the writing before.
It is almost amusing. You're like, I guess, like, with the way he writes certain characters too, it's like, sure, man. Like, he made Ada, who's a character who's like, I'm privy to every conversation that's ever happened ever. So I can learn everything, and you don't have to, like, it's already a written reason for why I understand the stakes of everything that's currently going on. And I guess showing us that she's seen that conversation, like, it feels like he had a shorthand and then he made it longhand. Like, he had a code, and then he was like, but I should really explain the code to everybody. Like,
I mean, this is the reason that everyone hated Endless Eight when it happened with Haruhi. Like, it was like, no, you'll sit through the same conversation 8 times, nothing will be accomplished.
someone might say a different pronoun this time, or
Yeah,
they'll use an article they didn't do. That's how, things are crazy.
the girls will be drawn in different swimsuits maybe this time. That was, I believe, actually a reason that some people like that. Anyway, so Konohamaru now speaks up and says, okay, you guys are all going to cohabitate. And they're like, what do you mean? And Konohamaru's like,
I
yeah.
signed you up for Ninja Big Brother.
Yeah, it's a really weird way of putting it. He's like, this isn't going to be some ultra fun Team 7 boarding house. The only ones cohabiting will be Boruto, Kawaki, and Ada. And it's like, okay. Well, so
I feel like Kishimoto has at no point ever thought through the implications of anything he's ever written. Because the first time you hear this, you're like, am I reading Blue Box? Like, am I reading some kind of like? There's no way to not be like, oh, so like the ninja mission this time is to keep Kawaki and Ada from fucking or something like that. Like, what? Like, why are we doing this?
Everyone's like, what the hell's going on? Ada can see the entire conversation, so we occasionally cut to her for reactions, which is the only thing remotely interesting about this entire chapter is her just, like, out of context while Amato is sitting next to her, going like, oh, and I was like, what is going on?
I can't tell what you're seeing.
That Sarada says, like, oh, I get it. So we're doing this to actually surveil Ada by giving her what she wants while we watch her. And Shimara's like, yes, basically, like, we know all this stuff that Ada is capable of, but we can't do anything against her currently. And our usual methods of monitoring Ada would just get compromised anyway, because the Watchers would voluntarily do things that are favorable to her, even if Ada herself didn't deliberately try anything. So, yeah, Boruto and Kawaki are going to fill those roles because they're immune to Ada's powers. And then, at the very least, we can figure out if she's actually willing to cooperate with us. So, Kawaki says, what did I do to earn this? And it feels like it would have been a great part for Shikamaru to go, you killed the Hokage's kid. So he says, like, look, we don't have a lot of ideas, and I've got a feeling that Ada will be fine with this because Ada's got a crush on you, Kawaki, and everyone's like, what the fuck is going on? Ada
it
reacts by
like it's
blushing.
supposed to be like kind of like a fuck island. Like, it's just like,
It
hey,
does.
We're gonna have this house and these two. She likes him. he's kind of moody. We put a third boy in there just to keep it kind of wacky.
Just to have
also,
a bit of a
her
love
little
triangle
brother's
going.
probably going to be there, or he's going to be stuffed in a box. Who knows? We don't address him in this chapter. And there's going to be people watching all the time. You're like, it's a reality dating show.
It is
like,
a reality show. Ada's heart starts to doki doki, and so that's going on. Shigemaru's like, yeah, so Kawaki, you're the reason Ada's coming here is that she thinks you're cute. So Boruto says, I mean, but why go after Kawaki? Which is kind of a burn, like low-key. Like, all right, but she could literally have anyone. Why this loser with his stupid hair?
Look at him, this big dope with his dumb haircut and his stupid face tattoo. I'm like, all right, fuck you, Boruto.
Sumire proves that she is indeed a more valuable asset to this series than Mitsuki because she brings up the actual observation in this, which is, oh, I get it. If everyone falls in love with her, then it is going to be immediately suspicious of her. I bet she probably actually wants to have a legitimate relationship with someone, and Kawaki's like the only person she can experience that with. So that's why she's kind of romantic over it. And Kawaki's like, maybe she's just stupid.
It's the best moment in the chapter. Is Kawaki just like, I don't know, maybe she's just dumb.
And now, after all of this, where they have flat out said, by the way, guys, this is our plan to monitor Ada. By the way, she can see and hear everything that ever happens.
Yeah, that really feels like you should have opened up this conversation with that. Because that's the follow-up of being like, by the way, you probably shouldn't say that because she could see and hear anything. You're like, what if this conversation hadn't been pleasant? What if just one member of the team had been like, oh, so we'll have her in a house. That's like the perfect time. Just like, I don't know, like gas her room or something like that. Or I don't know, like do a ninja thing to get rid of her. And just like, oh, well, that just fucking ruined everything. Because I buried the lead on the fact that she's privy to all conversations that ever happened anywhere ever.
So everyone's like, wait, on top of being able to just make anyone fall in love with her, she can also see and hear everything ever? That's kind of broken as shit. And Shigemaru's like, yes, and you should consider the entire conversation we've just had to be leaked information. So the diplomatic maneuvering has already begun. Right, Ada? Oh, it's cool because he's speaking directly to her even though she's not there. It doesn't flow very well into this moment, and it's set up in a really clumsy way. So I really wish that I could like this moment, but it's just not executed very well.
It's more interesting, I guess, than anything else that happens in the chapter in terms of actual execution. So,
yeah. So he talks with Kawaki for a little bit. Then Konohamaru says to Boruto, hey, by the way, you're not just going to monitor Ada, you're also there to mediate between Kawaki and Ada. Don't let them fuck, he's a minor. So they say that, and they say, remember, if the two of them don't get along, that could mean that Konoha's future is in peril. And Boruto's like, okay. But then Shikamaru says, that's the attitude you should have. Got it? And then Boruto makes a weird face and says, this mission is annoying. Like, what? Because you have to play babysitter?
I mean, it makes sense in that this mission's dumb from a fucking Boruto perspective, like a ninja series perspective. You're like, I don't know, we gotta like pretend to live in a house together and like suss out her true motivation. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like, God. It's just like this dopey premise.
It is very weird. It also, despite the fact that they just established the stakes there, it can't help but feel incredibly low stakes too.
Yeah, they're like, this is crazy high, but like, we all know we're just waiting for code to show up. Like, that's the whole like
pretty much. And they also say, okay, and the rest of Team 7 will basically be watching the three of them from outside and sending in status reports. So this is why this is a Team 7 mission as opposed to just a Boruto and Kawaki mission. Also, Sumire is there. Again, I don't know why she's there, but she is. She's apparently part of this because she is there, and there's a big group shot because Shikamaru's like, will you do this or not? And Boruto's like, the answer's obvious, since it doesn't seem like we have an option to say no. And like all 5 of them are posing together. It's like, Sumire's not a ninja. She's just like there.
She's like, I'm just here for a fun time. Not a long time, but a good time.
Sasuke and Naruto are aware of the mission. They talk a bit about it. Naruto refers to the plan as a, quote, very Shikamaru-like ploy, which I have to vehemently disagree with. Then everyone's like, okay, remember your roles. And then Kawaki suddenly reacts, and because he sees, he gets the feeling of Otsutsuki coming out of Boruto, and then but he kind of looks at him, and apparently Sasuke sensed something too. And he flashes back to encountering an Otsutsuki and being like, this feeling is similar to that day. I wonder. Ooh. Oh man, I hope that the plan to put Ada in a house and while she fawns over Kawaki and watch her and see what she does doesn't get complicated by the arrival of the plot.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of like mysterious things kind of going on. You gotta deal with it. This is like fun, you know. It's like it's wacky. There's all sorts of stuff going on. This is gonna be a fun time. Just sit back. It's gonna be fun. You're gonna have a good time.
There wasn't enough stupid stuff in this chapter to like be entertaining. So now I'm just kind of like, God, this series is bad. It's just bad now.
Yeah,
and it makes me sad to say that.
Yeah, no, I mean that's ultimately the situation we're in. Is just like, yeah, this was just kind of a dopey chapter. Like, I understand like on a surface level how this premise makes sense, but like it just doesn't sound very exciting, and it just feels like something we're gonna do in between. Like, I feel like they're never going to get into like the ethical complications that is Ada. To some extent, like, it doesn't feel like the question is like, hey, we need to find, like, she has a power that can control the whole world. We need to find out if she's somebody who's we just need to take down or something. Like, I feel like they're never going to get into those sorts of questions. It's just going to be like, oh, does she fall in love with Kawaki? And then it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe they'll do something dramatic where she like starts to fall in love with him, but then she dies, Code kills her, something like that. It's like a tragic romance. You're like, I don't give a shit about any of this.
No. All right, Kaiju number 8.
Kaiju number 8.
So, a cataclysm was going to start up last time, but we don't begin quite on that note. We begin with a wedding is happening. Toku from the Kaiju cleanup brigade, his daughter's getting married. Aww. And he's all nervous because like, oh, my daughter's getting married, and I'm wearing a suit and I feel out of place and stuff. The bride arrives, and she's in the reception hall, and people are like trying to be encouraging to him and say like, hey, come on, you did a really good job raising her all by yourself, and this is the start of her new life. Give her a proper send off. Toku approaches his daughter, whose name is Chieko. And he's so nervous that she steps on his foot with her heel because she's like, stop being more nervous than I am. Come on, get your act together. So Toku gets set to walk Chieko down the aisle. And as the doors are getting set to open so that they can go into the reception hall, she just says, hey, Thad, thanks for everything. And there's a hall full of people. People on both sides of the aisle are happy to see her. They're applauding, which I don't think that's maybe that's a thing in Japan, but it's like applauding when the bride shows up seems a little bit strange to me.
You know what? Maybe it was like a real banger song going on. Like it was just like fucking who did that song? Damn, I had a good reference and I completely lost it because I couldn't remember it. It was like a fucking nerd though. Anyways, just imagine a Manga playing, and they're just like, woo! Backstreet's Back. We'll go with that. Backstreet's Back's playing, and they're just like, wow, I love this song.
And it just reminds me of those weird Google commercials that have been using that song lately, and how like all the kids apparently don't know the song but also love it. It's very strange to me. Anyway,
Kevin Rudolph. That's who I was thinking. Let It Rock by Kevin Rudolph. By the way, that was.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're like, I haven't heard this song in forever. Woo!
Yeah, this guy's career didn't really take off very high. Anyway, Kaiju's here. Oh,
you're not part of the Rudolph movement. Removement?
Sure. Whatever those words were. Anyway, a kaiju is also very excited to be at the ceremony. Like I mean, a horrible tragedy so quickly.
Is that Kevin Rudolph?
He's pressing against the window like, oh!
Can I come in? It looks like you guys are having fun.
And then
always cry at a wedding. His tears are missiles destroying the city.
Yeah, so there's a brief, slightly silly visual, and then it goes through the window into the hall where all those people are, and then we cut from there to the crisis communication center, where a whole ton of kaiju alerts from all over Tokyo come in all at once, and we start to cut around and see kaiju just emerging and wrecking shit. There is like this massive swarm of what look like are identical kaiju all tearing up some rail lines. These kind of pangolin looking ones rampaging through another district. These giant cricket looking ones going up a tower. I'm not sure if I don't know what tower it is. I don't know Tokyo landmarks. Anyway. And basically, the crisis control response center is completely overwhelmed all at once because they're like, "Well, crap, we can't respond to all of these calls. What do we do?" Then we cut back to the side of the wedding, and things are not great. Toku is carrying the groom Daiki on his back. And he's shouting to him like, "Hey, come on, kid, hang in there. We're gonna get you patched up. Don't leave Chieko alone." While he leads the crowd to try and get to safety. And as they're about to go down some stairs to the basement, the kaiju bursts through the wall, sending people flying. And Toku is still okay, but Chieko is right in front of the kaiju, and it steps on her legs to prevent her from getting away, and then looms over her. So Toku, in a desperate attempt to save his daughter, bites into his own wrist to cause himself to bleed, starts spilling blood everywhere, and tries to get the kaiju's attention, saying, "Hey, come on, you can smell the blood. Come and eat me. And the kaiju, without responding in any way, shape, or form, just takes Chieko into its mouth. It's so sudden that it's kind of shocking, honestly. And Toku starts to despair. He keeps calling out, "No!" as the kaiju kind of lifts up to swallow Chieko whole and gets its head chopped off. As Narumi arrives in the nick of time to save her. Like, it looks like her body falls through the cut-open jaw of the kaiju, which is pretty great. So it's okay, guys. The bride is not among the casualties after.
It was gonna be pretty brutal to spend like most of the chapter being like, "All right, these guys seem fine. I kind of dig them," and then just be like, "She's dead."
Yeah, I mean, like, because we know who Toku is because we've seen him a few times. He really does pay dividends in this chapter because you can very much empathize through him as to what's going on, and so it's like, oh, thank God, Narumi's here. Sure. Wait, do I feel that? Did I feel that?
This was definitely a character I recognize and acknowledge.
It's one of Kapka's friends from the cleanup place.
Sure.
Sorry.
I believe you. I don't remember him, but sure.
Narumi gets in communications with Ashiro saying, "Hey, I assume you've got your area under control." And Ashiro's like, "Stop saying stupid stuff. Yes." And so Narumi slicks his hair back and he's like, all right, let's go. Japanese Defense Force, roll out and transform, because I can't see a commander saying those words and not think of Transformers.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. But yeah, heroes are coming to take on the kaiju. That's what we got coming.
Cool beans. Looks like we're gonna get some cool stuff.
Yeah.
All
right.
Let's wrap up.
Spy Family.
I say wrap up. Wrap up before we get to Eden Zero.
The
We
monthly
have like
stuff.
14.
Yeah. We get a brief scene of Yor on a mission at the start of Mission 68 of Spy Family, attacking Steel Gut Gullickson, who has this bizarre solid steel girdle with a bear's face on it, and he's bragging about like, I've got a girdle of solid steel, and Yor does this double palm strike into his steel gut and sends him flying off the dock into the ocean. So that went well for her, but she hurt her wrists doing the move.
I do love that is the entire setup premise to this. Like, it was just like, I'm a man who has a steel girdle on my belly. All right, well, let me palm strike you into water. My relevance is done. Goodbye.
There needed to be an excuse for Yor to have an ouchie in this chapter, and this is our excuse. Here we go. And she makes up an excuse when she gets home, saying that a fire door just slammed on her hands the previous day. Anya reads her mind and knows the truth, and so Yor's is like, okay, I guess I just need to rest on my hands, and they should get better. Yuri's there. Oh, good. Yuri's here.
Everyone loves Yuri. He's like the breakout character of the series. Haven't you seen all the Yuri memes and all the Yuri cosplay?
Yeah, everyone loves Yuri. Yeah, I've watched the Spy Family anime with Nicole, and she was like, "Yeah, this series is great." And then Yuri shows up, and she's kind of like, once you get into his deal, it's like, again, that's like the one character
like,
you never like to see.
Except for Yuri, is he like a major character? You're like, no, but he does show up frequently enough that you just accept there are chapters that are mid because of it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yuri starts berating Lloyd for not doing the cooking while his sister is hurt, and of course everyone's like, I mean, Lloyd does the cooking normally anyway. While they have a private moment, Yor apologizes to Lloyd for this, but she also says, "Oh, you always take such good care of me. I can't thank you enough for your kindness." And Yuri hears this, and he's like, "Oh no, I'll do the cooking instead of you." And he cooks and makes a bunch of dishes, and then he's like, "I'll feed to you, Yor." And Yor's like, "Okay," because they're used to this because they're siblings and they grew up together. But as she's eating, she kind of thinks to herself, like, Yuri's cooking isn't as good as I remember. I don't know if he's lost his touch or if I'm just kind of used to eating stuff that Lloyd cooks now. So Yuri's upset about this. And then he's like, "Oh, I'll bet that you're such a pathetic husband that you won't even feed your own wife." And Lloyd's like, "Okay, well, if I guess we'll do this then." And so he gets this very determined look on his face, like he's going to like be feeding her like a secret information document, and he's like, "You've got to swallow this or we're going to be found out." Gets this very intense look. Yor gets a bit embarrassed over it because they're being kind of lovey-dovey in this moment. Yuri, of course, loses his nerve, but I do like the moment that follows after this immediately, because instead he's like, "You Chihuahua girl," which is what he calls Anya. I still don't really get it. I don't know. Is it because she's small like a Chihuahua? I don't know.
Wasn't that the joke a while ago that she misread what he said as being like a swole Chihuahua or something like that?
That's right. Yeah. Okay. But they do the like, here comes the choo choo, and Anya feeds Yor, and it's like, oh, little cute moment. Yay. Yuri's upset because Lloyd's cooking is better than his. So they have a cleaning up the dishes competition, and Yuri gets distracted easily and breaks some of the dishes. So he's really not helpful. He keeps on challenging Lloyd to doing chores and stuff, and Lloyd's great at doing all the chores. And for some reason, he can't beat Lloyd at anything. It's so important.
I love that we get like a fucking Sunday morning comic strip moment where he's like, "I challenge you to a battle of laundry," and it's just Anya rolling her eyes like, "How am I supposed to study with all this noise?" Like, if you would just change the panel to a circle, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds like the kind of harmless family circle joke that I could accept being a reality.
Spy Family Circus. You follow the dotted line around so you can see all the corpses that Yor has killed.
Yeah, there's a little bit more going on in Family Circus Circle, but you know, it's still like a whole thing.
Eventually, Yuri decides, I know, this is the final round. We'll see who can buy the best stuff the fastest for the least money in the ultimate shopping duel.
Now, this I'll pause here. Supermarket Sweep is one of my favorite shows of all time. So, with that on the record, go.
This could have actually been kind of funny if this had been like the only joke and it had just been like just this one thing instead of, and Yuri keeps on losing, you know, but whatever. Yuri goes racing off and like is getting really intense and shouting while he's racing out of the apartment, and Lloyd just kind of like really slowly puts his hat on. It's like, all right, see you soon. Just casually leaves.
See, this is where Lloyd is at his best, when he just gets to react to other people being insane.
Yeah. Yuri goes to an informant of his and like a snitch contact that he has, and he's like getting really intense while the guy's really nervous, and he's like, tell me where I can buy the cheapest detergent in town. Ah, a funny Yuri joke. Ah, it's scary. He races back after completing his shopping, gets home. Lloyd has somehow beaten him home, even though clearly Lloyd was taking his sweet time.
Well, it's to show he knows the neighborhood, because that's his whole thing.
I guess.
He plans it out when he gets out on the walk. He's like, I'll go here, go use a general store. There's a discount today. Like, he knows how to do his walk.
Yuri is ready to admit defeat, and like goes down on his knees when he comes in and sees that he's lost. His groceries go spilling out. And so as a result of this, Yor looks down at one of the items that he got, and she says, oh, it's whistle candy. I remember this. We would go into the mountains and use these to whistle and scare away bears. And they just kind of reminisce a bit about, you know, that nice memory. That strange memory, but that nice memory.
Look, I'll say a lot of things about the show. That is a genuinely sweet moment of like, hey, it's those weird things that like only siblings who are like kind of close in age and grew up together kind of have. Of just like, hey, remember this thing that we have like a weird connection to? Like, I don't know, it's kind of sweet.
Yeah, so she's really legitimately thankful to him. She's like, I haven't seen these in years. Yuri gets emotional, and Lloyd.
I don't like that packaging though. The packaging's bad. If they're candies. You get 8 of them, but it's still like it feels like it's like 80% plastic around it. That's awful.
It should just be a tube.
The environment is important, and that is wasteful packaging.
Especially if you're using them to march through the wilderness and chase away bears.
Yeah. You're like, oh, what does it taste like? Like, oh, like fucking rose water and spit. Like, oh.
Lloyd, credit to him, tries to extend an olive branch. Say, oh, yeah, it goes to show you. It's going to be a long time before I know Yor half as well as her brother does. And of course, Yuri just be like, it's damn right! Fuck you, Lloyd! You'll never love her! So long, loser! Runs away.
I kind of got a big laugh out of it being like, yeah, suck my nuts, bitch! You always sucked, I rule! And then leaving. Because I would do that. Like, I would be the one who's taken, like, 30 L's in a row, and then I get one win. I'm like, everybody sucks but me, suck my butt, bitches! And then I just leave.
And so there's an awkward moment where Yor is apologizing to Lloyd, and he's like, it's okay. And Anya starts whistling with the whistle candy. Yeah, so. There have been worse Yuri chapters.
There have been. I'll say this legitimately, if you were to rank all of the Yuri chapters, this would probably be my favorite. I was like, there were a couple of amusing moments from it, and I thought it was genuinely sweet with the whistle candy. All right.
Okay.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Eden Zero, number 208, Dead End. And we get more modeling some clothes that I guess Laguna has designed, or he's just being like a fashionista judging. Who knows? Either way.
And since it's Laguna doing it instead of Weiss, it's like, maybe they're actually like doing something instead of Weiss just being like, so,
he might actually be giving real critiques to the way the outfit looks and wears and things like that, as opposed to just being like, could you put on this schoolgirl outfit now? Or whatever Weiss sounds like. I don't know.
I like to have these little scenes where you can imagine that the guy and girl depicted can have like a real conversation.
Yeah, platonic.
That's just nice to imagine, you know. So
anyway, Jin gets his Aether Gear back because everything got solved last chapter, so he punches a bunch of robots. For some reason, Moscow is a dramatic sense of like tension in this chapter because he's covered in sweat. And he's like, "The Aether Gear canceller is back online. We have to get going." Like it's just like, what is this? Like I've never known this character to be like this. Is this supposed to be a joke? Is this a reference to something?
No,
or is it just
it's just that there's only so many crew members aboard the Eden Zero, so occasionally Moscowy's got to have a cutaway serious moment. Yeah. So.
They're firing up the cannon. We cut back over inside of Dead End Crow when Holy is fighting Heilung. Heilung is just like, you know my power, don't you? It's regeneration. He punches fucking Holy in the chest. He's like, yeah.
This doesn't make any sense. Why does he have like world destroying powers if his power is regeneration? How does he power up a giant kaiju thing if his power is regeneration? Whatever.
See, that's an interesting question. So, we just move on straight ahead. Oli is like, are you done with your speech yet? She shoots a bunch of like fucking melt stuff at the core, and she's like, I do know what your power is. You can't regenerate two things at once. And this is meant to be like a big turnabout, but I'm like, we've never met this man before. No one knows this about him. We just found out his power 2 pages ago. So why is this like a turnabout? Like in a JoJo fight, this is where the fucking theme song would kick in, and you'd be like, no, you can't kick it in here. Heilung is like, no, I am Crow, and he attaches a bunch of like cables to himself because he's like, I'll use my regeneration power on Crow if I'm Crow, and I'm gonna go crazy. I'm fused. I'm good. I'm evil. I'm blah 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 blah. Jin shows up. He's like, we have to get out of here, and she's like, no, I have to kill him. He's like, no, we got this. Besides, you really don't want to die to this dude. Like that's gonna be real feels bad when you get to the end.
He says, I'm pretty sure ending your life here with him is not what you wanted. To which I say, how do you know? You two did not ever have a conversation prior to being inside this guy.
They fought a lot of robots together, Nick, and like in a hero universe, that's the tightest bonding you could do. Like that's more intimate than bleaching each other's assholes at this point. Right?
I mean, Jin is the male character in the Eden Zero that Holy has had the most interaction with now, which means that they are now one of his romantic couples.
Oh, I'm sure they're going. I guarantee they're going to get paired off together because that way she can have a new younger sister as well. And Hero will take Hero will take note of that fact and he'll be like, "I'm fucking so smart and so cool." He's looking at himself in the mirror. He's like, "I am the smartest, coolest person." Anyway. They travel outside. They're like, holy shit, the Aether Gear is too powerful. Dead End Crow is like shooting laser blasts all over the place. Heilung is just like, you humans can swim, but you're never a match for the Great Crow. I will erase. He goes, you were doomed as soon as you met me. I will erase it all, and then I will restore it to life. And then Eraser shows up. And to continue the gimmick that we established last time, he goes, yo, erasing stuff is my job. And then he just opens a hole. He's basically just like, I can't erase all of Dead End Crow, but I can erase a doorway open into his core. The Eden Zero ship fires its big special Starbringer cannon. Pachoo! There's, I guess, what's supposed to be a cool line that Hermit says where she's like, for us, there are no dead ends. You're like, cool, I guess. Cure dies. He just fucking gets erased. His last action is to be like his face balloons up and he just fucking dies. And that's it. The Dead End Crow has been fully completed. We cut over, fully finished. We cut over to Ziggy versus Shiki. Shiki is on the losing end. He's like, no, I've tried so hard. How can it be like this? And Ziggy, I guess, like just punches his leg and breaks it or something like that. Sounds like there's a crunch. So he's like, how could I lose to any of my past selves? This wouldn't work. You've reached your ends. But then Pino's like, no, don't hurt my master. And she just says, I think this is the moment I was born for.
Yeah. I mean, I am worried about Pino, admittedly, because she's like one of She might be the only character I cared if I cared that anything bad might happen to her at this point. Um, so yeah, there's that. God, this whole thing with Dead End Crow and Holy just so weirdly paced, and I don't know if this is a matter of like if it was condensed from how Hero had the idea originally and it was just crammed into this other arc when it was supposed to be its own thing. But the way it played out just does not have a sense of pacing that you can get any satisfaction out of it. And I really feel like it's just all a blur. Like, we covered what feels like 3 months of storylines in 3 really rushed chapters, basically.
Like, yeah, because what ultimately this comes down to is just like, well, this wasn't a particularly satisfying character. However, this character is the reason that everything happened. Like the hero wrote that. Like, that is just apparently the canon until I guess maybe Ziggy's like, hey, Long or Kira, that dude fucking sucked. I did everything or something like that. You know, straight up like fucking like. What do you mean you have hollow powers? No, your power was a full.
When did I ever say
Yeah.
that?
No, the numbers go from 9 to 0. It's just one of those things where you're like,
Man, what a big payoff that had.
and a similar thing here where you're just like, is there a payoff to like, oh, Cure has manipulated everything, and actually like Saint Fire Knox was actually like probably a good person who just like led a church of people, and Elsie also shouldn't be a criminal. I don't know. Maybe there'll be massive implications at the end of this. Maybe like the Interstellar Galactica, whatever the fuck is the one that remains of the like police people, is going to be like, oh, we really need to reconsider how we've done everything at this point, considering we've made our mission to hunt down these people, and like one of our own was one of them, and then like 3 of them we just found out are not actually bad people or whatever. So I don't know. I just want Eraser to show up now at every chapter because somebody forces the term erasing into things. They're just like, oh, damn, I accidentally wrote the wrong date. Could you pass me that eraser? And he's like, I'm the only one who should be doing erasing. And then he just deletes their paper. And they're like, all right, well, I guess I won't get my medical insurance this month. Thanks, eraser. He's like,
oh man,
salutations.
I can't wait for this competition. The interstellar race is going to be, I'm the one who erases things. It's not what I said. It's not what I said, Eraser. I'm sorry. I slurred the words together. That's on me. I was not saying anything. I was talking about ships that go fast. I was not saying erase. Erasing things. Okay, I did say erase that. You know what? I'm just going to.
That's on me.
That's on me. That's on me.
I said the E word. I triggered things. I shouldn't have. He's like, well, too late. I've already erased your car. You're like, well, that's fair.
Oh,
that's fair.
Okay,
I knew the rules of this game. I should have been playing them all along, I guess.
I'm just going to go and cry because I don't have insurance. Okay, so
let's talk about Akane-banashi, Nick. Let's talk about something that is. Here's what I'll say. I normally would say like Akane-banashi, this is gonna be the coolest fucking chapter. This is a low key Akane-banashi chapter.
It is. It is. It's a story 30 before being a Rakugoka. So last time, Shigema and Akane sat down to have a serious conversation about the conversation that Akane had with Isho Arakawa. And Akane opens the conversation with, I really appreciated this move. Just before even going over anything that she went over the show, she just says, do you know why he expelled Dad from school? Which is like, hey, this is important ground to cover, because like if Shigema had known and was keeping it from her, then that could, change some things. And very quickly we get, no, he did not know for certain. But, Shigema says, look, I do have an idea, because I suppose it's a matter of how he judges Rakugo. He's always been stubborn and selfish and uninterested in anyone else's feelings. But on the other hand, he's always been honest when it comes to Rakugo. For whatever his reason, I don't accept the proclamation he made that day. And, he says, like, look, Akane, I'm sure you know that if you're expelled by your master, that generally means that your career as a Rakugoka is over. But there are people who have been expelled who then get accepted into another school to continue studying. that's not supposed to happen. Some of the people who were kicked out that day entered a different school, and they did become Shinichi in the end. And Akane kind of perks up, and she's like, so my dad could have done that." And Shigema says, "Yeah, he had the option, but Shinta made his choice." And we get a flashback to presumably the day of the competition as Shinta is getting ready to leave, and Shigema says, like, yeah, the decision can't be overturned, but I know there are many masters who would beg you to join them. You've got the option. You could continue being a Rakugoka. And Shinta says in response, "Please spare me these hurtful comments. The relationship of master and apprentice is akin to parent and child. Before being a Rakugoka, I wished to be the apprentice of Shiguma Arakawa. I'm sorry that I was unable to live up to your standards." Which is very, very sad to me. Um, and we come back from that brief flashback to Akane's reaction to it, and she says, "I mean, I don't get it, and I wished he could have kept on being a Rakugoka, even if it was with someone else. I mean, at least that's what I would have said before I started training as your apprentice. But now I think I'm starting to understand how my dad felt." And we get, an image of like Akane as a little kid, uh, begging Shigema to become his apprentice, and then, flashes of all of her new brothers and her time as a kid training with Shigema and stuff. And she says, "I'm glad I was able to hear this from you." And that does sound like my dad. I always knew my dad really revered you, and he once told me, "I'm going to carry on Shigema's art." And like, this is a big detail that we haven't really been privy to before, but I guess it hasn't ultimately been important because this is not Shinta's story, it's Akane's story. That like, Shinta revered Shigema, he had all these books about him and stuff. But Akane says, knowing all this only makes me more determined. Master, I humbly request that you continue to offer me your guidance and leadership. And that's they both they kind of like renew their relationship basically with that. Then we jump forward to the next day, and Akane catches up with Jumbo, and Jumbo's like, "Oh, you won your Rakugo thing." And Akane kind of like teases him, like, "Oh, come on, you can give me a better reaction. You could be like, 'Oh, you won!'" But Jumbo's like, "I mean, I just assumed you were going to win," which I think is an even nicer thing to say.
Yeah.
But he also says, honestly, I was just more worried that you would snap the old man and cause some kind of scandal, like you would punch him in the gut. And he says, "I mean, he would deserve it, right?" But Akane says, "No, there's no point unless I use the art to convince him of his mistake." And Jimbo thinks this is kind of funny. He thinks back to, when they were younger and they got into arguments and stuff. And he says, "You really have turned from a Rakugoka's daughter into a Rakugoka." And it's nice, yeah. He leaves, and we keep up with him for a little bit. And he goes to judo practice, and he catches up with his instructor, who says, "Oh, you want to do a university practice? I mean, we just finished up a competition." But Jimbo says, "I mean, I didn't get past the quarterfinals, but I don't want to come up short." And his coach gets really enthusiastic about this, and Jimbo's just thinking about how Akane is excelling in her world, and he wants to excel in his. This is probably my favorite detail in the entire chapter, because it's like, Jimbo's like not a very important character, but he's established as Akane's friend who has nothing to do with her world. But it's like, oh, this is an influence that Akane is having on some of the people around her, and it's very nice.
I'll be honest. This series is a massive success. If it just wants to take like a couple months to be like, hey, here's a short little arc about Jumbo going to like a martial arts tournament, I'm here for it. I'll follow that entire goddamn story. I love these two. I think he's great. This dude's good.
Yeah, they've got a very sweet, positive friendship. It's very nice. But Akane apparently has other friends?
Nick, don't you remember them from like a cover page where we saw them from behind walking towards the school? Her big friends, Risa and Yuka. I didn't have to just look at the page to remember what their names were. It's always been up here. Steel trap this mind.
I guess it would have been inappropriate for Jumbo to do this part because he's not super online like these two, I guess. They run up to Akane and they're like, look at this! And there is a video posted by Monthly Rakugo, the magazine that, whose, reporters we were following for the most part during the competition. And there's a post, and it's all about Akane, and they apparently recorded her performance at the Rakugo competition. Gasp!
She's got a lot of quote retweets and tweets. So inevitably, most of them are just people quote retweeting her and putting like, "You dropped your clown license right here," and then all the replies are people like, "Yo, they beating your ass," in the quote retweets, and it's like the Pink Panther like smoking a cigar and putting on glasses, and you're just like, "Why do you have this image?"
Also, I guess it might not be a Twitter post because the video was 16 and a half minutes long. So
I mean, you could watch like a short fucking television show, I guess. There, sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a nice little chapter. It's got some nice interactions in it. It's not the greatest chapter of Akane-banashi, but it is good and nice. So
yeah, I dug it.
All right. I swear I read this chapter of Aliens Area, and then when reviewing it before we got on, I was like, oh, right, I guess this happened. I'm going to, I think, be recalling it as I'm in the process of reading it. But here we go. It's chapter number 15. All hands on deck. It's time for a meeting, which is the most exciting sounding thing in the world. Like, it's time for a meeting, guys. Oh, boy. So remember that whole thing with like, the people being burned to death and all that? So a month passes. It's just 1 month later. All right, nothing important happened. Tatsumi comes through the door saying, I passed my equipment test. So I guess that happened off screen. We didn't have time for it. He approaches Shiraku and says, about your promise to focus on investigating A3 after my test, which I guess was the thing that happened. Yep, all right. So Shiraku's like, yeah, I'm working on it right now. I applied to establish a special investigation headquarters. That's right, guys. A3 is like the single anti-alien group that has ever been talked about, and they have not had a division of their entire department ever dedicated to investigating them, ever. But now they're trying to set one up. Red tape talk. Red tape. Shiraku says that if this doesn't get established, there's just not going to be an investigation, which sounds unacceptably irresponsible. It's within your jurisdiction.
We didn't vote to stop the meteorite coming towards us, so we're just going to see. We're just going to let it go. Not our problem. Not our monkey, not our circus. You're like, I feel like the circus is coming to town regardless of what you do, though.
Shiraku says, this isn't the first time we've had issues with A3. Then why? The division previously classified A3 as a terrorist organization, even tried to make some arrests, but the investigation team ran into some trouble and all but one member died. Because of this, A3 incidents are now classified as level 3 incidents. So, because we tried to stop A3 and didn't succeed, we're going to abandon the process instead of dedicating more resources towards it. Which, admittedly, is a very, very, very on-point representation of a government agency's approach to these matters.
And this is a very government bureaucracy moment, though, of them just being like, why don't we have a meeting to decide what we're not going to do?
Oh, God. So, but Shiraku says, but there's also the possibility that A3 is behind substance implants in humans when we had believed it was aliens, which could make this a level 1 incident and would require all the divisions to work together on this. And that requires an established...
There's a lot going on here. There's so much going on here.
All right, so it's time to meet some new characters. All people wearing black suits and ties. And including Shiraku, there are 7 people here. with Tatsumi. And they're all just kind of boring looking dudes in black suits, honestly. But then more people show up, including the leaders of teams 1, 2, and 3. I don't even remember which team Shiraku's the leader of. I don't remember what number they are. I don't care. So one of them says it takes about 30 minutes for a TV manga episode to finish. To which another guy says, "What's a TV manga?" Okay. So they're here. And we get, oh man, there's conservatives in this agency that are going to already be against Shiraka's proposal, but he's already secured the proactive faction. So now there's 4 people that are in favor of Shiraka's plan, 3 against, and then there's 3 neutrals. We've got to cater our message to be as much to the center as possible, because then that'll get us those swing votes. Isn't this interesting? So,
like the chapters of World Trigger where they had to like talk like in a council meeting were like some of the more interesting ones.
Mm-hmm.
I have no point. I just wanted to
I
just wanted to remind us of that as we sat through this.
Kiyotara, guy.
This is a good point. I was recently just on an episode of Duckface Diaries, World Trigger podcast. It's hosted by Winston Cheddar and Mr. Hovind. And we talked about a lot of things, and Aliens Area comes up as a question I get asked about in relation to, like, does it fill the World Trigger shaped hole in your heart? And the answer is no, unfortunately.
No.
But I don't even know if it fills the Aliens Area shaped sized hole in my heart right now. Like, I
don't know. That hole was kind of when there were no stakes at all, actually. Kiyotara, it says that he is in fact the survivor of the incident where they tried to investigate A3. All of his team died except him. And he says, I don't want to burden my teammates with a similar experience. And so one of the conservatives is like, oh, so you're against it, Muro? Ain't you Shiraku's buddy? And Kiyotara says, as my team's leader, I am responsible for the protection of my subordinates. Okay. One of the others says, this Akina woman fled A3 and went to Polaris. Who would believe such a thing? And Shiraka says, you don't find her story credible? Well, I brought someone to back her up. And he goes towards the door and opens up the door. And it's Shogo, the alien who fled with Akina. To which Tatsumi goes, huh? What? You didn't tell me about this. And Shiraka says, no, I didn't. So apparently he showed up after hearing about Akina's death, and now he's being held. And Shogo says, I don't like Foreign Affairs 5, but I'm doing this for Akina to help you catch A3. And he has information that they don't. One of them brings up all the resources that be dedicated to it, and he's like, I'm not going to do this. And Tatsumi's like, but we haven't even voted yet. And the guy gets mad at him. The leader of Team 3, who's a woman, says, stop acting inappropriate but she also says the claims are unreliable. They talk about stuff, they demand proof. Shiraku's got a folder, and he's like, well, here's a list of A3's members I found at Akina's residence. And on the list are the names of Tatsumi Tatsunami's mother and father. An implantee's parents being members of A3 sounds like a connection to me. Now let's let Tatsumi talk about this and tell us about the day he remembers the substance being implanted. Okay, so guys, I don't want to alarm you with this thought, but I don't think Aliens Area is going to last too much longer.
It's not looking great. Usually when you get the hero's big backstory, it's like, oh, well, this is something we have to cover, and now we're kind of wrapping up. I don't know. Can I just can I clip the conversation we had when we got introduced to like the 100 or the fucking like 7 different members of Dororon's like side cast in one chapter and just put it here? Because like it's the same thing. Like we just met like a shit ton of characters who aren't relevant, but we're going to be presumably at some point. And credits. Like the series is gonna roll soon.
it really does feel like it's like, okay, this was when we were going to like escalate things and have really important figures come in, but now we just have to do that because the series is going to be ending much sooner than planned initially, and so here they all are. And I mean, like, there's just all sorts of other hints towards that all come throughout the chapter. Just the very, very, very up in pacing of the entire time scale of everything. So and the other thing that is going faster than this chapter is how quickly I am checking out of the series. Like, so let's talk about Blue Box. Chapter number 69, Inota. So Ayase is at home, and she's just says randomly to her sister, "You think Chi's ever gonna get a boyfriend?" Like, all right, interesting question. But Karen says that well, Chinatsu says she's busy with the team. Also, apparently, Ayase is just like randomly invited herself into her sister's room and is hanging out on the bed, which she finds a little bit annoying. Makes sense. And Ayase says, like, I mean, I've been seeing her, and she's like, she's got guys that are just like looking at her all the time. She could have her pick of all of them. If it were me, I would talk to them one by one, which sounds way more insane than talking to none of them to me. So
well, that's because we're introverts, Nick. The idea of talking to multiple people sounds like a punishment in our minds.
Yeah. She also brings up, like, I wonder if there's anyone she likes. And Karen's like, and she's like, there is someone she likes, isn't there? I don't know. And Asa's like keeps on bothering her. And so she's like, okay, I better just like gloss over it, and then that way she won't know what I know, and she'll leave it alone. So she's like, yeah, the guy that she likes is tall and good at basketball, and he's an older hottie with a wild side who's abroad at the moment. So she's like, yeah,
she just creates a basketball player in her head, and she's just like, basketball people are tall, right? Sure.
Yeah, as far as I know. So I was like, oh, perfect match. Yeah. It'd have to be a good fit for her. And Karen's like, yeah. I mean, yeah, okay, this is better. This is better than her actually finding out who the guy is. Literally the next day. I fucking love this transition. That's cool. I was passing by and people were like, oh yeah, this second year who was studying abroad in America has returned to us. He's this tall kid. And she's like, oh my god, it's a hottie who's tall and good at basketball from abroad.
Perfect. Just what we were expecting.
Oh man. And so, like the two different sides of the basketball teams are kind of interacting with each other, and I was like, yes, he's a perfect match for her. Go for it, Chi. Meanwhile, she's got duties she's not attending to with the badminton club, so freaking Taiki's got to track her down and be like, you haven't filled out this part of the form, come on. But she starts asking, he notices, like, oh, who was that guy on the basketball team? Ayame, was like talking about him and stuff. He's sure cool, huh? Although I'm more into Yusa, because I like the cool and aloof type, which it makes sense now. So yeah. He's aloof, sure. I do like Taiki, however, responds like, I mean, you only saw him once, so I don't know why you like him. Hina comes by, so he approaches her, and they start talking about just stuff generally. But Ayame is watching them while they talk, and she just kind of like observes Hina's reactions while they're talking to each other. She's like, And later on, she, as part of her duties, she's taking out the trash. Hina also happens to come outside at the same time, and they kind of just like, start like, oh yeah, I'm the new manager. Yeah, I guess we'll see each other a bunch as we're around the gym. Hey, do you like Yunoda? It's just like the third thing that she says to her. And of course, Hina is like, what? How don't you know? And Ayame's like, oh man, you were making such a very obviously girly face around him. I guess there's more to that guy than I thought, though. If a girl like you falls for him, then you don't have to worry. He's not my type. I'm not going to go for him. We shall see. There's only one guy of importance, romantically speaking, in this chapter that's not spoken for, so we'll see. But she's very encouraging towards him. It's like, oh, you could get him. I'm sure you could snag him with just the littlest push. If you knew how you felt, he would totally go out with you right away. I've already told him how I feel. Wait, what? You told him you like him? Yeah, but I asked him to put his response on hold because I already knew that he would probably never see me as anything more than a friend. But I still told him because I wanted to, and I was hoping if he knew that maybe he would start to see me as a love interest. And he still hasn't given you an answer. No, because he told me he didn't need to. Yes. What the fuck is wrong with you? This is a very intense, dark expression on her. What is wrong with you?
I do like her kind of like being like the wingman of just like, what the fuck? No, that's crazy. He's making you do all the work. Fuck this guy. Yo, fuck him.
He's just taking advantage of you, and he's like, I mean, come on. He's like, no, you can't let him have his way. You have to grab him by the scruff of the neck. Which, I mean, if she is a serial dater, then I guess that this makes sense to her, sure. But she does like acknowledge, like, okay, I guess you're not in a very good situation. But Hina says, well, I mean, I enjoy liking Taiki. And Ayame gets like kind of, I guess, pitying. I'm not sure exactly how to read this reaction, but she goes, "Oh, it's so pure, like, oh, you sweet summer child," basically. But she says, "Hey, you know what? I'll help you out, and I'll help make your love come to fruition. I, Ayame Moriya, am on the side of any girl who's doing her best." So it's nice that she has this confidence. We cut away from them. It's the day has gone by. Taiki's walking on his way home. Chinatsu kind of catches up behind him, and she calls him by Inota, which seems to start to have like a Pavlovian response to him because Ayame's been the only one saying it. So he goes, yeah! And he's upset that she has called him that. But she says, oh, I think it's a nice nickname. And Taiki says, I mean, would you like it if I called you Chi? And Chinatsu's like, I wouldn't mind. I mean, you can also just call me Chinatsu.
He's like, oh, fuck. I didn't expect that to be the way this conversation went.
Yeah, it suddenly got very, very heartfelt and genuine, didn't it? And but then she goes like, just kidding. And Taiki's all embarrassed. He's like, oh, I'm just getting tugged around. And then on a note that I fully admit I do not get, Chinatsu's got a little cactus-looking plant with her. Which, because Taiki like sees it and he asks about it, and she goes, "It's a secret." I don't get it. All right.
She's gonna force feed him a cactus tonight. She's gonna start shoving it down his throat while he's sleeping.
What we don't know about Chinatsu,
Halloween.
what no one knows about Chinatsu, since she's never been in love before, is that this is how she works through her romantic feelings.
She doesn't know what intimacy is, so she thinks it's thing like shoving cactuses into people's throats. And then they're like, no, you're not supposed to do it. She's like, oh, what are you supposed to do? Like, oh, go to the movie. She's like, that sounds dumb.
But how does the cactus come into it?
Yeah, when do I shove a cactus down your throat?
No, I mean, you just you hold hands. And then I stab you with a cactus? No. Where's this cactus coming from? It's like, look.
The cactus has to be used for something. I bought it.
Are you sure you don't know? Are you sure you know what you're talking about when it comes to relationships? If you don't know what to do with a cactus, I mean, maybe we should consult someone who's got experience with this. They'll know all sorts of things you can do with the cactus, I bet.
Yeah. Ninja has a good point. It's probably related to the love plant growing metaphor that Shinatsu gave earlier, and cacti don't need to be watered to grow. Great point. It's much funnier to think that she just thinks she has to insert a cactus somewhere, and she doesn't quite understand why nobody else seems to get this.
I could buy it with Shinatsu. Yeah. She's a bit of an oddball. So, yeah. All right,
Nick. Let's move on. Let's talk about Ginka and Luna.
Ginka and Luna.
Everyone's favorite series.
It's not my least favorite. Chapter 2: Dragon Slaying. Very colorful cover image. I really like it. So Ginka and Luna have set off on their journey. They're no longer in the mountains, so they're just kind of like looking around these bizarre fields with hills that look like cresting waves. and they're taking in some of the bizarre animals that are around them, which are referred to as horned horses. They are not deer and they are not unicorns. They're like horses with like bull horns.
It's pretty dope. I
And
don't know why. I feel like I've never seen that before, and it's so cool.
and there is something called a stealth weasel, which I can only describe as concerning. So and so, Yuna is looking around, just being like, "What's this? What's this? What's this?" And Ginka's like, "Oh, come on, guys! These aren't important. These aren't anything special. Just move on, and let me have some peace because it's the first time I'm out off of that mountain in 10 years." And Yuna's just like, "Well, what's that? It's not important." It's like, oh, that's a flower dragon. Holy shit! And they just see up on this hill what looks like a flower with a large pistol coming out of it, but the pistol is clearly like the neck of a reptilian creature, and apparently this is a flower dragon. And Ginka talks about how very special they are, and how their bodies are used in like expensive perfumes and fragrances and stuff like that, and how it's very special to get to meet one. Luna immediately rushes off to go and sniff it, and Ginka's like, "And I'm going to capture it so that I can charge people to smell it." Because Ginka apparently is motivated by wealth, which was not a trait that I picked up in the first chapter, but I guess it's part of it now. Anyway, they meet the Grand Fisher. It's got a fishing lure thing on its head. It's something you see on a fair number of different kinds of monsters, and it's this big, wide-mouthed monster that greets them, and it mocks them for falling into its trap as they had followed it up onto this hill. And it uses its lure because it's like, "Hey, I'm gonna eat you guys. You should be acting a little bit scared, like this." And he plays a bunch of different images of people who have like begged it for their lives, or been pleading for mercy, or screaming in terror. And then he's like, "Oh, this is what I want to see. I love it when humans are terrified of me. That's why I eat them." And Luna just says, "Wait, so you've just been here for a really long time, just doing the same thing over and over again?" "Yes." "That's really a waste. I mean, you've got wings. You could fly anywhere you wanted to. And you've just been eating the same things in the same place, and you just think about stuff you've done in the past without doing anything new. That's a waste." And Ginka says, "Yeah, if I could use that magic, I'd turn into a rare animal so I could make money by charging people to see." Again, it's like, it's kind of all the same thing you're saying here, Ginka. I mean, I get it, but whatever. So Luna says, "Oh, I get what your problem is. You're not skilled in magic. I could train you." The monster goes to eat her, and she uses her magic to form a thing that is made of sharp things and looks vaguely like a mouth. And she says, "Look, if you can use magic, why don't you create something you've never seen before? If you use your imagination in this vast world, there may be more fun and delicious things than eating humans." The monster sees this and sees how powerful she is and decides to run. And Ginka goes after it. In fact, he is riding on its back without it having realized it, and he beats it the fuck up. And the creature melts.
Yeah,
I get it. Coughs up the object that is keeping it alive, basically. And as soon as it leaves its body, it disintegrates into a skeleton. And Luna immediately gets sad because she's like, "Oh, I wanted to have a pet dragon to ride around on," which I think is nice. Ginka recognizes the thing that the beast has coughed up. The two of them go into a nearby town and they eat bread, which they find to be delicious. Which, yeah, if you've never had bread, I'll bet. The store owner.
I've said my piece on it before.
Calories, true. The shop owner is like, "Oh yeah, but I've got to close down because there's a dragon in this area. It's been driving away people. All these soldiers went after it and they died. It's destroying my business. So the only thing I can do is I'm going to go and kill it. I'm going to go and avenge my wife and daughter." And they're like, "We killed the dragon. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's gone." and then they just leave. And as they leave, Luna's like, what is this place? We're in this like weird graveyard. And Geek refers to it as a grave of dragons. And then they come to a stop, and Ginka says, the dragon that we fought today is something I heard about a long time ago. A dragon that tricked and ate hundreds of people. And this comes into conflict with what they learned from the shop owner, which was that the dragon showed up recently, whereas Ginka hasn't been in the mountains for 10 years. But Ginka says, no. I've confirmed it. This matches what I remember. The dragon that has supposedly been dead for 300 years, an evil dragon recorded in literature. And they're in this grave of dragons, and there is this big empty spot that matches the shape of the skeleton of the dragon they killed before. And Ginka says, someone revived him using my body. And he holds up the little scrap that got coughed up by the dragon. And he says, yeah, this is only a piece of my body, but it's got enough magical energy that it revived the dragon. And then he takes a moment to brag about that and be like, yeah, I'm so awesome that my magic can revive the dead, even if you've got a little fragment of it. But that's why only I should be able to wield this power. I can't have anyone else using it as they please. So now we have like a more like goal-oriented plot that is established in this moment. They're going to go around and retrieve the parts of Ginka's old body and help out people on the way because these parts are being used for evil. And they say like, it felt really good to learn that we had helped that guy by killing that dragon. That's what I want to do is I want to go around and I want to make people feel good. And Ginka's like, and I want to get paid while people thank me. So there we go. Three beats in the chapter. And Luna's like, yeah. And the next time we come across something, we should take care of the problem before anyone can get sad about it. And that's what they set out to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good chapter. It establishes, I guess, a long-term goal that our character's going to go under. It gives us a little bit of character detail. Like, I wouldn't have guessed from the first chapter that Ginka is apparently very, very greedy. But basically, he's Mr. Krabs over here, just like, SpongeBob, me boy, we got to make our money off of this. Where do I get mine? And
I'm the world's most powerful sorcerer.
Conjure me up some money. But we get some stuff with Luna that is solid. It's a world building. It's a good chapter all around. We're building up on I think a pretty strong premise, and a series I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's solid, I would say. All right, I've got a puzzle for you, Quinn.
Okay.
All right.
Orange Cassidy.
No.
One day I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get the person right.
One day,
awesome.
you'll just sink it. All right. Post-Gen X pilgrims problems prompt purge from the premiere.
And so is this a group or referring to one person in particular?
It's one person.
Okay. Post-Gen X
pilgrims problems prompt purge from the premiere.
This is someone losing their spot or getting kicked out of a company altogether. I'm going to assume it's the former, that they just lose their spot. I don't think it would be Triple H from the curtain call.
This is not a legitimate incident. This is a storyline thing.
Oh, okay. Is it Baron Corbin?
No.
Okay. I was trying to think of who just fell on their ass and in storyline was like, you're a bummy schlub. Go wrestle like that.
Bummy schlub.
For 6 months. And
we're gonna name I want to see a character introduced in wrestling be called Bummy Schlub.
Bummy Schlub.
Just the ultimate jobber character, just Bummy Schlub.
The Schlub driver. Post Gen X pilgrims. I'm trying to think of that.
Problems.
Yeah. I think I'm stumped on this one.
That is the millennial cowboy Adam Page.
Okay, I get you.
The premier, the elite, yes. I was trying to think of a P word that would work with alcoholism, but I couldn't. I couldn't think of one. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there might have been one, but yeah. All right, yeah, I like that. That's a good one. Adam Page. He's in a rough spot right now. Any whoozle.
Yes. So it's PPPPP chapter 49, uh, which is called Brilliant Lucky. We get some very funky color pages to start things off. Like that, this opening page is like it's
Yeah,
very weird.
we
Yeah.
get a lot of really cool visuals. This is this is the chapter.
So Lucky, while Sora is playing La Campanella, has just been approached by himself, saying, "This is the ultimate La Campanella." In case you wanted to know if Sora is going to win this match or not. And so Lucky looks at other Lucky and says, "Who are you?" And the figure says, "On December 21st, fraternal septuplets were born. All 7 loved playing the piano, and all of them, except for me, became brilliant pianists. No, I was brilliant too. I'm the lucky Otogami who is only a few months old. You haven't been born yet. You're surprised. Is it because you're baffled I remember the past, or are you baffled because you don't remember? The former would answer like this: I remember everything I saw, heard, and felt with my entire body. And Lucky, of course, is confused because he's being talked to by this few-month-old version of himself. And he says, how are you talking about things you never experienced? Uh, and he's like I can remember an experience and channel through music, but what does that have to do with anything? And the other Lucky says, I have a body that can absorb experiences more than the other 6. I was born brilliant. Just ask Dad. He's the only one who's heard it once before. My beloved fantasy. And there's just a 2-page spread of the other Lucky creepily waving back and forth and coming forward while saying beloved fantasy. This is very disturbing in my mind, especially because then he reaches forward and just grabs Lucky's face with his hands, and says, of course, this was before you came to be. Mother wasn't the one who gave birth to you. And we get a flashback to when Lucky and his siblings were very, very small. And, we're at the age where they were watching, cartoon animals saying, be nice to everyone and don't cry. And also watching Precure characters killing demon villains. Like, which age group are you?
Nick, didn't you just flip on from Barney to fucking like Ronin Warriors? Because that's how my childhood went.
But the other Lucky says, this world gave birth to you. You saw, heard, and felt everything this world deemed good. You learned from that and got approval, and so you were born. So essentially, by seeing, be nice to everyone messages and then deciding to be nice, the actual Lucky came about as opposed to the primordial Lucky. And there is narration that says, education is wonderful, it's necessary for evolution, it's precious. However, for the blessed brilliance of the Otogami children, education was a total failure. The fantasy is created through the connection between self and piano. Thinking about playing for others only prevents the fantasy from happening. And Lucky says to his other self, like, wait, are you saying I have a split personality? And the other Lucky says, you and I are choices for this body. But ever since you came to be, this body has always chosen you. Why choose the person who lives for others when it won't create a fantasy? Why not choose the person who lives for themselves? When this body took form, I was the one who was there. So why? I've been treated like I'm dead. I hated being hidden away deep inside as the unwanted choice, and always wished to be reunited with my beloved fantasy. But right now, this body is trying to choose me. The fact that you see me in the sky is proof of that. And a giant bell appears behind him.
Yeah, well, if you listen to the last Campanella, there's like big bells sounds that sometimes come in towards the end.
I do not know the song, so.
It's
And yeah. La Campanella, La Campanella.
You know the song. Once you start singing it, everyone just goes along.
And the bells, they ring along.
Everyone knows it's a classic. Sweet Caroline, La Campanella.
Dong, dong, dong. This is the ultimate Campanella. Okay. Hello, mother. Hello, father. This is my rendition, La Campanella. All right, so I just interrupted this like very weird internal nefarious speech for all of this. The other Lucky wants to take control of Lucky's body. All right.
Sure.
Lucky is fighting his inner hollow, and it's because he's listening to a song.
Now, it's good to note here, of course, the joke that you have to make in regards to this chapter, and we be feeling our job. Inside of everyone, there are two Luckies. One has depression, the other one has depression, you have depression, etc., etc. This is fine. This is cool. I like the imagery. This is some cool stuff. Listen to it while listening to La Campanella. It's a good chapter. It's good stuff. I'm curious to see.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you killed me. It's like, no, dog. I've been here all along. I'm ready to get out, though.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, and it's weird that suddenly we've got these very bizarre stakes that have been introduced. But I mean, it is actually bringing to a head the stuff that people have had with their concerns about the new way that Lucky's been acting, and it seems like this is going to be a very important step forward for his self-actualization that has kind of been building up in this most recent arc. So yeah. All right. Good chapter. It's good. Tokyo Demon Bride story, chapter 3, a happy conclusion. So our heroes are chasing after the thief that has been at large in this part of town. Jinta and Manaka, that's her name. Okay. They're chasing down the thief. They get a good look at him and see that he's got some sort of weird mask and eyes glowing underneath it. They go racing across the rooftops. We get some people talking about Jinta's abilities because the shop owner is talking with. It's not important. They're talking with someone. They're saying like, "Oh yeah, he's actually kind of a well-known local high school kid who will just like do any job. He'll help people move a fridge that's insanely huge up a hill. He'll chase off 6 Dobermans in heat. Very specific. And yeah, he's just been doing that every day for 3 years, working like a madman. Because we need to establish this is why Jinta has kind of ridiculous physical abilities for a human. He tears down alleyway after the thief. He's like dodging around, people and stuff. He reaches out to grab at the thief, who just kind of leaps straight up into the air because, as it turns out, he's not actually human. He is some sort of Oni that I don't know the name of, but he's got like a vase for a head, and also like a frog tongue that he eats flies with. So yeah, Jinta's like, wait, you're another like weird. All right, okay. But the guy, just because the guy has like run up out of the alleyway doesn't mean he's safe. Manaka has chased him down, and she's like, all right, gonna take you down. First skill, changing phantom spirit sword. And she slashes at him, and a bunch of extensions from the walls of either side of the alleyway extend towards him. The guy can't get away, but also there's a fly next to him, and this causes complications because we then get an explanation from Manaka over how her abilities work. She has powers called spirit magic, and everyone has spirit magic for different purposes. There are two different types, which are acquired magic and innate magic. And her innate magic, Spirit Phantom, rearranges the composition of the target. But we get almost literally a case of like, The Fly, the sci-fi picture where, the guy like was going to do some stuff, but a fly flew in and gunked it up. So she was just meaning to change the walls around him to trap him, but she accidentally merged the guy's body with the fly that was next to him. And so now he's got a fly head, and he's half naked too.
Hooray.
And Jinda says, it's like the fly. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So Manaka's like, this is just punishment for him hurting you. And Jinda's like, well, this is cruel and unusual. You should transform him back. Manaka's kind of not happy about this. But she transforms him back, and she says, if you steal again, I'll kill you. And then she kicks him in the ass the way that she kicked the frog girl in the ass in the first chapter. And Jinta goes again with the kicking. Because, yes, that is indeed what has happened. She has done it twice. She's done it again. Yes. And Jinta is also concerned if anyone saw what has happened here. Fortunately, it's just the shopkeep who comes along. And she kind of like chews them out because they got really reckless chasing down the thief. But then Jinta returns her bag to her. And she, remembers back when her husband bought it for her. And she's like, oh, and it still smells like his cigarettes. Thank you. I was just trying to lecture you. Aw, that made her feel better. Manaka and Jinta ride home on Jinta's bicycle. And Manaka talks about how there are so many good people in the human world. And she says, yeah, and everyone in your family is great. And Jinta says, well, we're not blood relatives family. We're not technically related, but we do live in the same house. Okay. But he also says, like, hey, you don't have to like think that all humans are good. And they also start to bring up like, hey, what's going on with your family situation? And Manaka's hesitant to think about it, and she just says, I mean, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to, because everyone's got a few things that they don't want to talk about. There's all sorts of people out in the world. There's 7 billion people on Earth, and there's nothing wrong with having things that you're kind of nervous about talking about. And Manaka squeezes him tight while she's riding on the bicycle, and she's like, I'm in love with him. I'm gonna make this work so that one day Sir Jinta will love me back. And then we get a brief flashback to when they were talking with the shopkeep before, and it just says, Manaka's with the circus troupe, and she says, I saw everything. It's okay. I won't tell anyone. There are a lot of strange rumors going around Tokyo these days. People I know have seen weird monsters and inexplicable things happening in the shadows. The next time something like this happens, could we hire you to take care of it, Jinta? And you're just like, you mean people would pay me money to solve the city's mysteries and fight demons? Oh man, it brings all the problems together. So now this is why they're going to work together and be a team and take on everything and make money so that they can pay off debts and stuff. And they're riding home, and Manaka is falling asleep while hugging Jinta, and that's the joke we end on. Okay.
All right, Nick, here's the important question. Do we keep Tokyo Demon Pride in the recap?
Please no. Look, guys, it's not like I hate it. It's just that, like,
what did I pick up?
What am I gonna do with it? Like, just, I got nothing. Like, what do I got? Do you want me to talk about this? Like, I've got nothing. Like,
No, I do not either. I do not want to talk about it. Look. This is not a bad series. This is, I think, ultimately a very harmless series. I just don't have particularly anything to say about it. I think our recap is pretty full at the moment with a lot of stuff. I would only put this in here if it was something that was like, this is a wild, fucking crazy train wreck, holy shit. And it's just not that right now. Like, it just seems like it's a fine, kind of low-stakes series. So, I would just say enjoy it if you dig it. We didn't really, so I don't think we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. I don't have anything else to say. Goodbye, Tokyo Demon Bride. I'll never think of you again.
And legitimately, it might be one of the more forgettable series in recent memory because it's just, yeah. Anyways, let's move on to Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Chapter 124, Order Mattel and the Circus of Death. Hey, Nick, it's a chapter about Order, Order Mattel fighting Famine. Both these dudes suck. So,
Yeah.
we start with Famine, who's like, I want your glasses. Order's like, you can't have them. I need them to see. Kind of funny. Famine throws like a playing card. It knocks Order's glasses off, and he's like, all right, I see your game. And he picks it up, and his eyes are all like squinted, and he's just like, that did it. You're going to really regret picking a fight with me.
I'm going to get you now.
And it's kind of amusing because it's like,
he's so serious.
It's the only time we've seen like a joke out of this character, really. Famine's, of course, like, I'll just kill you and take it for myself. And then they do the Arcana fight from Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle City, where they strap...
It really is, yeah.
They strap things to themselves and are like, it's going to attack both of us. But then, of course, the one guy can kind of cheat. Anyways, there's a big clown face that's going to shoot out knives, basically. They fire some attacks. There's a couple of gags that kind of go in and act. We don't really have a ton of time to talk about all of them, but... one thing that notices is Order's like, oh, he gets like stabbed by a bunch of cards. He's like, how did those cards connect with my body? He blocked my spell with his hands. Motions alone. What is this trick? This doesn't make sense. And they start to have like a philosophical debate, essentially. And, you know, Famine's just like, you decide to observe my actions. How rational and boring. I don't like losers like you. We should all be free and crazy. Take what we want and kill the people we don't. Live a happier life. Your way is boring. And then Order's like, you know, you want freedom to live without rules and do as you please. Doesn't make any difference to me. Humans are emotional creatures. Isn't our nature to be all rational and whatnot? But, you know, gotta do it, I guess. You know, if you want to do it, accept there are consequences. Basically, and many people have said it, it's sort of like what happens when a lawful evil character runs into a chaotic evil character where they're just like, both of us suck, but we have different ways of going about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, Order in the way that he frames his argument is like, yeah, he's right. You know, the Order is there so that, you know, there are consequences when people just do whatever they want. But of course, we know that the way that the Order that Order, is supporting is exploitative and is uneven. So it's bad still. So, but it's nice that we have this establishment of like, this is they're not just like wildly different magical people. It's like they also have wildly different thoughts on life and stuff. So it's an extra layer.
All right, so we get the revelation that Famine shoots another attack. Order blocks it with some sand. He's like, aha, invisible card. Your power is invisibility. It's a mere parlor trick. And then a bunch of knives are stabbed at him. He's just like, he was prepared to take the damage. They go for a little bit of a back and forth. And he's just like, you know what? You're right in that you're not boring. But you're a long way from talking about freedom if that's how you play by the rules. Because he basically kind of like cheats and like unshackles himself to get out of it. And Famine, I forget the character who this reminds me of, but he has a very detailed face all of a sudden. And he's just like, ha ha ha. All you do is talk about boring stuff. And if you don't like a rule, you should break it. But you seem to like being tied down even if it's choking you to death. So the chapter ends with the two of them about to square off. It both looks like they're activating their bankais. We don't get like the names of it, but we see their staffs kind of appearing.
Yeah, the appearance of Famine's face and all that detail and stuff. It's like very suddenly disturbing. I dig it. So, but yeah, it's actually a really straightforward shonen battle chapter for the most part as far as Mashle is concerned. But on those terms, it was pretty good, I thought. Yeah. All right. It's the Elusive Samurai, Chapter 78. I believe the chapter title is Weapons, but it comes much, much later. We get like kind of just the opening beats of some of the fights that are going on. Ayako going up against the weird waifu armor guy. And the way that he phrases things, it's actually kind of cool because he explains like why he does what he does. He goes around to and like meets women that are, you know, appealing in different ways and then adds their traits to the girl that he idolizes, Tsuruko, who is his goddess that he just freely admits like he made her up, but he says, you know, she is perfect because she doesn't exist and so she has no limit, and so I endeavor to be worthy of her, and so by admiring her I also have no limits. It's like, all right, that's I like that flavor of shonen bullshit. I'll take that. Um, we then get the fight between Mochizuki and creepy guy. That's all I'm who has been chopping through his trees as he's been trying to use them to attack him, just because he's got a giant sharp sword. And we get an explanation for, hey, you know, there was this, you know, the Mongol invasions of Japan stuff introduced all these bizarre weapons that had never been seen in Japan before, and so these new weapon designs were combined with, you know, Japanese swordscraft to create new weapons. It was almost like a shonen manga, which, by the way, it's one of my pet peeves. Dear mangaka everywhere who write shonen manga, stop saying this is just like a shonen manga. Stop that. I don't need to watch a movie and have people go, this is just like a movie. I don't need any of that ever. If you are talking about them talking about a medium different than your own, then that's fine. But don't point something out that is supposed to just be in line with the medium that you're creating. It doesn't make any sense to have it be pointed out because it shouldn't be exceptional for showing up. Anyway, they're fighting. They exchange barbs, and Iwamatsu, the evil guy, is like, I'm going to do bad things to women. And then we move. So, just, anytime he talks, I'm just going to replace it. He says he's going to do bad things to women.
Pretty much. His dialogue, he's becoming very Flanderized, yeah.
Then finally we cut over to Tokiyuki and Kojiro, who are squaring off against, God, I forget his name. There's so many new characters that have been introduced in this army. And he's pissed off that he's got to, you know, have this unfair fight that they're going up against. Some of the Hojo forces cut people off from reinforcing Shibukawa, that's his name. And meanwhile, the strategist Shiba kind of analyzes the situation, sees that Shibukawa's been cut off from everyone, and he's just like, okay, normally Yorishige, if something were risky to the Child Emperor, would not allow it to happen, so they must be up to something. And so they ask, like, well, what should we do? And he's just like, the fight will proceed and so shall I. So I do kind of like this moment because it's like, okay, we just want to establish, like, this guy is smart, so we'll just have him actually accurately analyze things. It's nice. There's a cool moment as Shibukawa engages the kids, swings his long ass daikatana at them, and there's a cool dodge, like Spider-Man almost looking, where Tokiyuki does a freaking backflip to get out of the way of one of the attacks. And it's very dangerous, but of course Tokiyuki is really, really excited by the battle. Kojiro signals to him through like baseball style, like sign language and gestures. It's very intricate, the message that he delivers. And he's like, come on, do the thing that we prepared to do. And Tokiyuki's like, I mean, it's a really rude thing to say though. And Coach is like, you've got to do it. You've got to be the one to say it. So Tokiyuki's like, okay. And he looks really bratty for a moment, and he says, oh, you're swinging that blade all slow, Shibukawa. Does fighting two people make you tremble? I guess that's why you prefer single combat. You're just a coward. So their plan to take on the guy who gets really, really powerful when he's angry is to make him really, really angry. We'll see how this goes.
It'll go great, I'm sure. Yeah, it's fine. There's a lot of things going on right now in the arc, and I'll be honest, I thought the honor guy and the weird anime guy were the same person, so that was a discovery for me this chapter. I was like, oh, they're two different people with two different things going on. Interesting. But yeah, it's enjoyable, I guess.
Yeah, if it weren't for that armor, you would not. You would have a little bit of a difficult time telling them apart. Their faces look the exact same. So.
All right, let's move
All right.
on to Black Clover, page 338.
Black Clover.
Trouble on a foreign road. Nest is like, what out this place? Whoa, how did I get back here? And everyone, he's just like, whoa, what the fuck? Ryoto, what are you? What's a shogun? I don't know what the fuck that is. And he's just like,
Yes.
it's basically our country's wizard king. And he's like, oh, but I can't sense any magic in you. He's like, yeah, I ain't that tough. And Asta's like, yeah, you don't seem all that strong to me. And the girl who was in the chapter previously kind of just glares at Asta and is like, this is what happens when I let you talk. I'm gonna break your face. She doesn't say that. She's a lot more polite, but she does. She just gives a look like I want to fucking rip off your jaw and shove it up your rectum. I hate you so much.
She's got some great energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Asta's just like, oh man, she's really mad. Her key did seem sort of like that, but what is it? She seems really familiar and also really dangerous. And Ryota's just like, hey, look, you're in this foreign country, want to do a little sightseeing, take your mind off some things. So they go around looking, and they show, like, hey, here's how this country's different. They have magic scrolls, or books too, but there's the scrolls that come out, and, this is how they do it. They use Yojutsu, and their magic over there would be called Yoryoku, and it's like, oh, it's very different. Oh, look at this dish. It's all very, very different. Then Asta sees...
I will admit, like, there is a panel where Asta says, there's all sorts of stuff I've never seen in the Clover Kingdom. And I was fully prepared for there to be, like, very unexceptional stuff. But it's like, no, this is all stuff that would be completely foreign to him. It does look very different from what we've seen before. I'll give it credit.
Yeah. And then Asta sees a child with presumably their mother being led about. And he imagines himself, or he reminisces to a moment where it was sister kind of walking him and around like that, which does seem to indicate Asta himself recognizes the weird implications of him having a romantic feeling towards his own mother figure. But we don't have time for that. He just is traumatized.
It kind of honestly recontextualized a little bit this weird fixation that Asta has had this whole time to... Asta has had this older sister figure since he was a kid, and it makes me think that the attraction he's had towards her has just been him never getting past a little kid saying, when I grow up, I'm gonna marry you kind of thing, which at a certain age is just kind of like, oh, that's cute. But it's like, you're a grown-ass man now, Asta, let it go. Stop it.
Of course, this is a way for him to, like, remember kind of trauma that was going on, but we don't have time to deal with that. Ryota is like, hey, you two, come over here this way. And as they do that, like, there's a giant explosion that occurs, and a bad guy comes through. The Bad News Badgers, who say, donate your food and valuables if you don't want to die. And they're like, holy shit, that's crazy. And they're like, oh no, Ryuta, did they get hurt? And they see that they're actually both fine. Ryuta's there, and he's like, you go on out of here, little scamps. And Ash is like, wait, missed them by chance? No, he moved them to a spot where they'd be safe. Like, what's going on? And the Bad News Bandits guy's just like, who are you? And he's like, I don't think there's anything to worry about here, as you can tell. I got no Yoryoku. And Asta's like, the fuck? But, Ichika, who we now find out is the name of the girl, or maybe that was mentioned last week, I don't remember. She shows up, and he's like, I'm sorry about this, but they're all yours. And, of course, he's a bandit. He's just like, oh, you're going to send little girls after me? You better entertain me real good. And she just, like, activates, like, there's just magic that channels through her. She's just, like, a little palm move. And then essentially does, like, a monk special move in a fighting game or something like that. Just, like, in a moment, like, strikes all 5 of these guys, or all 4 of them, like, instantaneously, and sends them flying against the wall. And everyone just starts cheering. They're like, yeah, one of the Ryus in 7. Yeah, well done, Lady Yami. And it's just like, Yami? Wait, hold on. Don't tell me. And she grabs him by the face. It's like, fucking touch me. And Ryota interrupts to say, yeah, Chika is Yami's kid sister. If you want to get stronger, have the Ryus in 7 train ya. Lord Ryuya is being kind to you, but I can't stand men like you. And Nasa's just like, Captain Yami's little sister. I hope her gimmick is she never poops. That's why she's so angry. Because she is
I have a bowel disease.
She is constantly holding it in. It is wild.
I am ultra constipated.
Yeah.
This is a very good chapter. It's like it's got just the right amount of like teases and reveals and stuff. I really like the thing that this is a really cool way to just have a character show up and just instantly be cool. It's like, okay, here she was in one chapter. She's kind of in the background. The next chapter she shows up and she's just like the coolest thing ever. I love the way that her technique is depicted, where the background around her goes completely black. I like the way that you get to see like these simultaneous images of her striking the four bandits. The follow through image is really cool, and it's like that's awesome. And then it's like, all right, cool. And we also get some more stuff with Ryudo. I like that, you know, there's just these kind of like he doesn't have supernatural strength or anything, but just the ability to predict things is still very useful. And I think that's a very clever way of you know, just demonstrating that by like even before anyone knows there's any danger, he just kind of quietly moves someone so that they won't get hurt. It's all really good stuff.
Good stuff.
All right. That's going to bring us to One Piece, chapter 1060, Luffy's Dream. And we get a big 2-page color spread with all the Straw Hats posing together. Yay. Also, there's a bear skin rug, I think.
It is worth,
or maybe it's an actual bear.
I believe it is a bear. It is worth noting this is a revamp of a color, not a title page, but like a coloring thing Oda did, like, God, be fucking like 20
a long
years
time ago.
Yeah. It was before Chopper joined the crew, to give context. Like, it was just the 5 original Straw Hats, so it's been a while.
Yeah. And some of the Straw Hats look like they're kind of in their old appearances, because like Frankie's hair is different. Whatever.
Frankie
anyway,
sometimes has that hair, but yeah.
So Luffy has just gotten word about Sabo that he had supposedly killed King Cobra, which he is in denial over, and everyone's like, yeah, it does seem kind of weird about this. And also Vivi, of course, has gone missing. Luffy wants to go to Alabasta, and Zoro's like, I mean, King Cobra's already dead, so what are we gonna do? And Vivi's gone. She's not there. Where are we supposed to go? She's gone to Mary Joa. And Luffy's like, well, then let's go to Mary Joa. So, you know, he's clearly just like being impulsive and not thinking about anything. Caribou, of course, is still spying on them from a barrel that none of them seem to be concerned about it moving around. So, and you know, Zoro's trying to like just talk some sense into Luffy. Just be like, come on, you know, where do you want to do? You want to fight the entirety of Navy headquarters? Sanji is really concerned about Vivi in his own way. Chopper is really upset that Vivi's dad is dead. I was like, oh. So, you know, and you know, some of the others are just like talking about like what's going on. And Nami starts to freak out too, but eventually Zoro says, guys, all of you, knock it off. Luffy, remember what you said when this happened to Ace? And we get a flashback to a long time ago, to when Luffy just said, yeah, Ace has his own adventures. And Zoro says, look, until the moment when Ace was in undeniable danger, you just let Ace live his own life. You don't think Vivi can figure it out for herself? She's a strong woman. Aww.
It's the first time Zoro has seemingly ever respected a woman. Usually he's just like, yeah, I mean, I can cut them down in moment's notice. And honestly, the very threat that I probably would be enough for them to surrender themselves, and perhaps their entire lives, but still.
Oh, this respect women juice is very sour. I don't like it. I don't think I'll drink it anymore.
I hate this. I'm going to go back to just demeaning them.
What? That Tashigi girl thinks she's my rival? What the fuck is she talking about?
She grew boobs. Once they do that, they can't be swordsmen anymore. I learned this when I was 8 and I never stopped learning it.
They can't handle stairs. They just get top heavy and topple over.
They're so off balance. They're giant breasts.
That's why I demanded. That's why I demanded that Frankie install all these ramps. I'm worried about Nami and Robin.
Honestly, he should be with the proportions they're given at times.
Robin is still going through the newspaper, and she, you know, just kind of like summarizes some of the information we were fed over the last several chapters. I like how Luffy, even through all of the worry about Vivi and stuff, he's just like, why the fuck is Buggy an emperor?
He's right there with us. But Luffy, he's just like us.
Yeah. And she also says, there's also some like more names with some connection to you. Do you want to know about them? And Luffy says, oh, just tell me if it's really bad. And Robin says, okay, I'm sure you've had your fill of the news today. Luffy,
I'm waiting for the moment where he shows up. He's like, Mihawk and Crocodile. She's like, I didn't think you wanted to know that.
oh, you know them?
Yeah.
I didn't know you knew them. You were there when we met Crocodile.
You were on his team. That was a pretty significant event in our relationship.
No. I think that you're thinking of Miss All Sunday. I am. So, and Luffy just says, like, look, Sabo did not do that. Like, he grew up in a home that controlled him. He just wants everyone to be free. I swore an oath to him and Ace, just the three of us. I wanna. And everyone reacts to whatever the fuck Luffy says. And everyone's like, what the fuck? There are all sorts of.
I like that it first looks like the Thousand Sun. He's like, what?
It does. What? What the fuck is this kid talking about?
Huh?
There are various reactions of shock and disbelief. Both Frankie and Brooke find it so ridiculous that they just like cry, laughing. Sanji also laughs. Robin is stunned into silence. And eventually Usopp just says, like, Kron, you know that's not possible. And Luffy says, maybe it is once I'm the king of the pirates. And then he says, oh, did I never tell any of this before? It seems kind of important. I'm not sure because I didn't hear it, but it seems kind of important. But Usopp's just like, I mean, it can't happen though. And so Luffy's like, I guess the only people I've told are Shanks and Ace and Sabo then. So, and all of them apparently laughed when they heard about it too. But then Luffy says, and that's all at the end of my dream. And more positive reactions. Jinbei is like laughing in disbelief now too, and he's like, wow, I mean, look, I'm part of your crew. I gotta take this seriously. Yeah, just a bit more like reactions to stuff. And then they bring up, okay, there's one more road poneglyph that we need to find so that, you know, we can find One Piece and get to Laugh Tale and all that stuff. But Robin says, I mean, don't make it sound so simple. The last poneglyph is the one that no one's been able to find for a very long time, and there are no clues to its whereabouts.
Wow, there's a lot of excitement and intrigue going on. I'm glad the rest of the chapter is smooth, easy sailings. Presumably, I haven't read it yet. I can just presume nothing wild happens in these next 9 pages.
All right, let me see if I can name these characters. So
you don't have to name the members of the fucking 5 stars or whatever.
No. So we cut to the Navy headquarters, and they're intercepting the message between Sabo and the Kamabaka Queendom, where the other rebels are. So they're like, okay, they're tracing the call, and they trace it to the Kingdom of Lulusia, which, you know, some of the leaders like are like, oh my word, that's one of the 8 countries that revolted the other day. The perfect place for Sabo to be hiding. An unlucky man. No, it is simply destiny. So they're not doing anything in reaction to this. They just know something is going to happen. So we cut to the conversation between Sabo and then those that are with Dragon. And of course he says, I didn't assassinate King Cobra. Shocker, I know. But he also says, when I was in Marijoa, I saw something terrible. What was it?
It's so fucking funny because there's this big dramatic tension, and obviously Sabo doesn't instinctually know it's happening, but as an audience, you're just like listening to like the most exaggerated build up to like, I was there and I saw a thing, an awful thing, the worst thing anyone could ever see, and I saw it in that room where the worst thing in the world ever happened. It was terrible. That thing in the room that I saw, awful. Terrible.
And when I tell you what happened in that room, the terrible thing that I saw, when I tell you, you will not believe it. I'm going to tell you soon. The thing. Soon. You can't wait for me to tell you. Bated breath, anticipation. What's that in the sky?
I'm about to tell you right now. Oh, it looks like it's gonna rain. Boop, boop, boop.
Clouds gather over the Kingdom of Lulusia, where Sabo indeed is, and people outside are like, what the fuck is that that's hovering above us? We also see that the people have revolted, and yeah, the royal family is on side. I don't know why we're introduced to these people. They get little introduction boxes. This is the Kingdom of Illusia's King Seiki and the Princess Komai. It's like, why are we bothering? Why are we bothering to learn these names?
I mean, for one, there are trivia questions down the line sometime. But two,
Fuck this. I hate this.
It's also, I guess, to show that like the revolt happened recently, and that's why this country decided to be like, fuck the world government.
Sabo starts to say, the empty throne and Pangea Castle. And as he's saying this, we see the shadowy figure that was, occupying the throne. And there is just, someone says, communications, cut off the transponder snail. And someone X's out the Kingdom of Lulusia on a map. And suddenly communications go quiet. As Sabo's trying to say, the throne that's supposed to remain forever empty because there's no king of the world actually has. And then a voice rings out saying, communications, listen to me. You did not detect anything today. You did not intercept anything. The Kingdom of Lulusia, that country, never existed in the first place. And fucking lasers rain down from the sky and decimate the whole ass island.
It's so fucking badass and awful at the same time. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah, so apparently the figure who secretly leads the entire ass world government can just go, this island doesn't exist, and can blow it up at a moment's notice. Cool.
This would seem to indicate a lot of things. Like this definitely seems to play into like the Void Century and a lot of things. Like this is what the world government does when something opposes them this way and threatens its security. It just erases you from existence. It's just like, what country? You want some of this?
Yeah, not only does this not exist, but the entire island it was on never existed. So, and seemingly, this causes such devastation that a freaking tsunami kicks up as a result of it. So that happens. And yeah, the ripples are like completely cut off from Sabo because the island he was on blew up. Yeah. I'm sure he's fine.
Unfortunately, yes, he probably is fine.
Oh man, that island blew up. The guy blew it up. Oh, that Sabo's fine. So, very quickly, we just move on from this. It's days later. We're back with the Straw Hats on the Thousand Sunny. They are making their way through ridiculous weather patterns. There is snow battering around their ship as they're making their way through huge waves. There's just a giant eel in the background, just minding its own business. It's fine. And everyone's in winter outfits, including Chopper, who's got a woven hat that he got from Otama, and he looks really cute in it. So it's nice. And he's like, I'm gonna go check this out, and I've got this hat, so I won't have to worry about snow. However, Luffy spots a, quote, enormous warm eddy, as identified by Nami, because the massive warm water that got heated somewhere is now being pushed upward so much that it is bursting up out of the ocean itself. So Nami, calls out to Jinbei saying, oh, yeah, we've got to get away from it before we get sucked in. But Luffy spots someone inside the water. And Sanji agrees. I can hear a lady's screams. Sure you can, buddy. So they're like, okay, but how do we get the person out of there? What do we do? Zoro's like, we cut it open.
Boom.
Just like doesn't even pause when Sanji's like, don't hurt the girl in there. And they cut that open. Chopper is like, hey guys, what's all the fuss? don't worry, Woven Hat Choppermon is on the scene. Ah, gets blown away. Gets the seconds gone away.
It's great that in a chapter where an entire nation was eradicated from the world, there's still this cutesy moment of like Chopper and his big hat coming out and be like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" Ah! Getting carried off by the fucking wind.
So Chopper gets blown away by the wind at the same time that they spot the woman that has come out of the warm eddy, little kid form Jewelry Bonnie. Holy shit, Bonnie's back in the series.
Nick, that might be regular age Jewelry Bonnie, and the adult one is aged up Jewelry Bonnie. Who knows?
Entirely possible. Yeah.
Yeah, Jewelry Bonnie is going to be. Look, at this point, if this was a new character, I almost would have started punching things, and I'd be like, "You're supposed to be wrapping this up, you son of a bitch. We're supposed to be closing loose ends, not opening up new ones."
3 years? Bullshit.
Eat my entire fucking ass, you hack. So it's good. This is like a crazy awesome chapter of One Piece. Just so many details. That like the moment of that country just being erased is something that's just gonna stick with you. Like it's just an amazingly powerful visual of just like, fuck, dude, these guys are evil as shit.
What country, Quinn?
That's true. You know what? There wasn't even like it was weird. This chapter started with them on the boat, and then it just cut to them on the boat in a different location. It's just weird.
Nothing happened.
Like something in the middle. Really good stuff.
I'll bet, however, that if we oh, never mind. Sorry. I was misremembering something happened. Okay. Yeah. Bonnie's back in the series. So okay. How long has it been she was around? I think we only saw her like during a snatch of like the montages during the time skip, basically.
No, so. I mean, we saw her. She was in the Reverie. We saw her there.
Oh, that's right. She was sneaking around. That makes sense.
Yeah,
okay.
There was suggested there was some connection between her and Kuma. So we have seen her a little bit since then.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap this week, guys. We're going to say what our favorites were. Favorite series and MVP. What do you got?
Yeah, my favorite series this week was One Piece. One Piece was just really, really good.
Okay. I am going to say it was, for me, I actually really liked Black Clover this week, honestly.
Okay.
I just really love the pacing of it and the reveals and the little teases that we get. So yeah, I'll go with that.
My MVP, I'm debating with Yami's sister because it was like a good introduction to her, but I feel like
Ichiga, yeah.
I feel like I have to go with Sun from Undead Unluck. I mean, the dude, like, there's a whole ass moment of her, like, of fucking Fuko being like, "Holy shit, is he attacking?" I'm like, nah, he just stood up.
He just stood up.
That's how cataclysmically powerful this guy is. I'm sorry.
I'm tempted to go between a couple of different options. There was, some stuff that happened in Black Clover that I thought was cool. I also want to give some recognition to the other Lucky in PPPPP. But I'm going to actually go with Jumbo from Akane-banashi. I just like the little moment that he has with Akane, and then he's like, you know what? I've got to try harder because I want to keep up with her. It's cool.
That's fair. I, of course, am the voice of the people, as always, echoing the audience picks of One Piece and Sun as MVP. Nick, no one agreed with you. I don't think anyone picked that.
Absolutely no one.
I'm looking.
Everyone's like, Black Clover sucked, Nick.
I'm looking. I'm trying to find if anyone matched with you. Was there any Black Clover picks this week?
No. What if?
Nope, there
freak,
was one.
Nick.
You know what? Kaniku fan. You and Kaniku fan.
Oh, damn it.
All right. Well,
I'm just kidding.
Sorry, Kaniku fan.
All right, guys. That is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. We record the show here on twitch.tv/RoloT Wednesdays, normally starting at about 7:30 Eastern time. But to stay updated on exactly when the show is going live, follow us on social media at WMR Podcast, at RoloT, and at Nick F Time, our accounts on Twitter. You can also join the Discord server for Weekly Manga Recap, participate in bi-weekly game nights with our wonderful community. You can also use it to discuss new chapters as they come out, the recommendation that we're currently taking, and also you can make your own recommendations by using it to find the Google Doc maintained by Ninja XGI, which keeps track of all sorts of wonderful statistics associated with the history of the show, and polls for like viewer categories for year-end awards and all sorts of fun stuff. We would also like to thank everyone who supports us over on patreon.com/weekly manga recap, which allows us to create bonus content for you guys to enjoy. We would like to thank Steve Mann, our title artist, whose work you can see on some of our episodes, the video versions on youtube.com/weekly manga recap. And you can find more of his work on twitter.com/SteveMannArt and generally wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet. And we would also like to thank Winsleydale Cheddar and Mallow Jack Stillitz, Winsleydale, who is, of course, featured on the World Trigger podcast that Quinn mentioned earlier. It's the Duckface Diaries. I always have to remember, I was like, it's a weird name.
It's a good name. We had a good discussion. We go over the chapter where Tamakoma 2 wins the B rank war match at the end with Ninomiya Squad, and it's such a great moment. Really, like going through it again, I was like, fuck, dude, this may be like a top 5 anime, like manga moment for me. It's so good.
Absolutely. So if you want to hear everyone gush over that awesome moment in World Trigger history, go listen to that.
What if I told you one person hated it? They don't. But what if I told you one person really hated it? That would get really interesting. You check it out, right?
Just absolute lies over like those YouTube thumbnails that are just like really, really misleading.
I'm not going to say that Chris Hemsworth shows up on this podcast. But I'm not saying he doesn't either. So, and I'm gonna, like, when the Duckface Diary thing comes out, if I just put like a red circle in like a corner, people are like,
have an hourglass.
I gotta check a lot of things out. Maybe he is there.
We can't start a wrestling tangent now. The episode's ending.
It's done. We're out of here. Well, next week we're coming back to talk about Get Backers next. Are you ready to get back with some Get Backers?
I have such a hard time reading this manga.
What are you talking about? Every minute's a throw ride.
I read it and then I'm like, I could just be reading literally any other manga right now.
The series where you read it and you're like, I have finite moments left in this world. My consciousness won one day and I'm spending a lot of time devoted to this.
What happened? Well, they had kind of a boring fight and then they harassed a woman. Okay.
Anyways, stay tuned, guys, for next week as we wrap up Sadistic September. And then things might get a little bit spooky. Also, Chris Hemsworth might be on the episode next week. You're just going to have to tune in and listen to find out.
Yes. He might be.
He might be.